We don't do naked rituals in our backyard. We've never sacrificed an animal. I've been a 30-year cop. I have no history of employee misconduct. I could not believe somebody could be that conniving, that vile, and that evil.
Yeah, you're not a real cop unless you have a policy named after you. So.
She's telling the entire world, and she's being believed. I couldn't tell my side of the story. We are the victims. We've always been the victims. Who's harassing who?
Do you, in fact, own any leather assless chaps with your BSO badge affixed to the front?
No, but now that I'm retired, I might get a set.
That's your God-given right as an American.
Called into IA and placed on administrative leave. Is there a lot of white supremacists still around? Because they saw my We the People tattoo. It was God's will.
What do you think he was trying to teach you?
I don't know. It's done. You're going to feel a little weird when you see it.
You had a boomer moment.
I get it. I get it.
I do not condone any type of witchcraft whatsoever. The power of Christ compels you. Why would you ever subject yourself to something like that?
This is the final nail in the coffin for us as a family.
We humanize the badge by having conversations like these about the nuances and complexities of this profession.
That's how I went out.
Jeff Mellies, welcome to the show. I know you and I, we never worked together, but we swim in similar waters. You worked...
Swim.
Yeah. Swam, yeah.
Yes.
I know we know a lot of the same people. I'm pretty sure we've crossed paths a couple times, but I heard about your story. You reached out to me, and you have an interesting story, to say the least.
To say the least.
And I think a lot of people heard a version of that story.
Right.
And I like to give you an opportunity to fill in the gaps and, talk about it from your perspective. Can you just introduce yourself, talk about who you are, what you did?
Sure. Well, first I'd like to say thanks for the invitation to be here. It's a privilege to be here on your show. I've been a fan of yours for a number of years. I said, you know what, if anybody's going to be able to tell the story in a true and honest and professional way, it would be you. So again, I appreciate the invite. I appreciate you, dragging me out here to the other
an undisclosed location.
To an undisclosed location.
Yeah.
But a beautiful location.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here. So with that being said, yes, my name's Jeff Mellies. I'm a 35-year law enforcement professional. I just recently retired May 1st of 2025. I began my career in 1990 with the City of North Miami Beach Police Department, and obviously ended my career with the Broward Sheriff's Office in 2025. So altogether, 35 years of law enforcement service.
Thank you for your service.
No.
It's very impressive.
You know what? It's one of those things that I was lucky enough to know what I wanted to do when I got out of high school.
Right.
I went to college for a year. I was up at Florida State and Tallahassee Community College, and I was kind of floundering because I had the itch, I had the bug.
Yeah.
Because I had done the police explored thing. I had it was in my blood, and I can't say that enough. You can, in my opinion, you can teach somebody to be a cop. You can teach somebody to do X, Y, and Z, and they'll be good at it. But if you don't have it in you to begin with, and it's not in your DNA,
right.
Like for me, this job always came natural. I didn't have to do a lot of thinking.
Right.
And that made it easy for me. It made it fun. And obviously, I was able to survive 35 years. So that especially in today's culture, that's saying something.
Yeah, and I think, you bring up a good point. There is an archetype for the type of person that gets into this job and gives a shit.
Yes.
And they're not just a bureaucrat with the badge.
Yes.
They actually, it's in their DNA somehow.
It's a calling.
Yeah.
I honestly, truly believe it's a calling. Like my wife's a firefighter paramedic. Mm-hmm. She's been with her agency for almost 20 years also. It's just it's just a calling. It is.
Right.
It takes a special type of person, and not to toot our horns, but I'm going to. It takes a special kind of person to run towards the gunfire and
Yep.
run towards a danger and not think twice about it.
Right.
And unfortunately, in today's society, in today's environment, I think that era of policing and that era of being a cop's cop is going by the wayside, and that's a shame, and that's part of the reason that I'm here.
Yeah, and I think we can get into that later as to your suspicions as to how it's going wrong. That's one of the reasons I created this channel is, look, anybody can bitch. Anybody can bitch about the way things are going. Oh, admin this chief. I think that's low IQ behavior. I think people need to put their money where their mouth is. And I'm the type of guy, especially as a supervisor, I don't want to hear bitching. If there's a problem, come to me with not just the problem, but come to me with the solution.
Correct.
And let's fix it.
Yep.
Because look, bitching, it's one of our favorite pastimes as cops. But the reality is it really drags down the culture, man. Nobody wants to be around a bunch of negative people all the time. It's contagious, and I think it brings everybody down.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm blessed that I can kind of speak from both perspective. I can speak from being a cop, being a mid-level manager as a sergeant, but I also achieved the rank of lieutenant, and I was an acting captain for 6-7 years. So I've got that additional, administrative experience.
Right.
So I can now see it from different perspectives.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And you learn a lot about, at least with me, I saw a lot of my interactions with supervisors when I was younger a lot differently when I became a supervisor. It reframes the entire situation.
Of course.
It's hard enough to be responsible for your own shit, to keep yourself in line. But when you start adding bodies to the mix, you start adding personnel that you got to watch, it becomes an entirely different animal.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Because, again, you're not just responsible for yourself. You're
Yeah.
responsible for 10, 12, 15. Like me, I was responsible for almost 75 other people.
Yikes. Wow.
So, yeah, it takes a different attitude and a different demeanor
Right.
to accomplish that and get the job done in a righteous manner.
What was your last position when you were working?
So, my career, pretty much with the exception of having anything to do with horses, canine, or being a pilot
Right.
on one of our helicopters, I pretty much dabbled in everything.
Wow.
My forte was investigative and investigations.
Right.
So I spent more than half of my career as either detective, homicide, robbery, violent crime, sex crimes. I spent a little time in IA. And as you know, with North Miami Beach, the detective units there, you're working burglaries in the daytime and officer involved
Homicides at night,
shootings and
yeah.
homicides at night.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're a jack of all trades. So the last from 2019 until my retirement, I was in charge of Special Operations Group, which included our violence interactive, proactive response patrol, our Viper unit, our fugitive unit. I did the administrative side of SWAT, and then I also supervised our burglary apprehension team, which we commonly referred to as the BAT team.
Okay.
Changes came in 2021 where some of those groups left my authority and went to a different authority, and I remained with the burglary apprehension team and the regional countywide crime suppression teams. So what that entailed was regional crime suppression. Each district has their own crime suppression units.
Okay.
They pretty much wear tactical,
Right.
and they're in unmarked cars.
Yeah.
And they target
Jump out boys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They target the drugs. They target the different property-related crimes going on, and anything to do with the districts.
Right.
When I came into play is when there was some type of regional response that was required, like when they had wheels up, guns down, or they had the intersection takeovers, or any major event that was going on within Broward County. They would tap me to go ahead and mobilize those
Be
guys.
the incident commander
Exactly.
for all that.
Exactly. Put together an action plan and put together the mobile command post and do the news briefings and everything else about what we were doing, how we were doing it. and then the BAT team. The BAT team is just our burglary apprehension team. They focused on residential burglaries, business burglaries, and then it morphed into when COVID hit and the residential burglaries started to plummet. There was talk about disbanding the unit because
Nobody was getting broken into.
and everybody was home.
Yeah.
So then we said, well, wait a minute. Let's look at the crime trends. The crime trends are, okay, well, the burglaries are down, but now the auto thefts are through the roof.
Yeah.
And so are the bank juggers and, a bunch of different other aspects of property-related crime that were now spiking. So we kept the team together, and we morphed, and we just started attacking things, and it worked out phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't think that's something, now that you mentioned, I don't think that's something that a lot of people outside of law enforcement really get a glimpse of, is that the job is evolving constantly. Mm-hmm. You're always playing whack-a-mole with crime trends. You're always you need to be on the cutting edge. You need to think like a criminal, essentially, to be in these positions and to actually make a dent in some of the crimes that are going on. And then somebody in your position who managed all the tactical units and everything like that, you really need to focus on, where the problems are and almost need to predict where they're going to end up too, right?
Yeah, because they keep evolving. And for instance, auto thefts.
Yeah.
Back in the day, teenagers, kids would steal a car. They'd go joyriding. They may show up in the front of their high school and show off to the girls and stuff like that, and then they go dump it down the street somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Well, that then morphed into, okay, well, now they're going out and they're targeting high-end automobiles.
Yeah.
Rolls Royce, Mercedes, Range Rovers.
Yep.
And now you've got fences and you've got these guys on the outside that are paying these 16, 17-year-olds $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 cash for every vehicle they bring in.
Yeah.
So now it's becoming, it's escalating.
Right.
And then on top of that, now you've got them using these vehicles to commit burglaries, where they're breaking into residences and stealing guns and stealing, safes from businesses, and it's always evolving. You've always got to stay on top of it. You've always got to, have a plan of attack to be able to combat it. And I got to be honest with you, outside of Broward County, there's not many agencies that have units specifically dedicated to doing that.
Right.
And that's why those types of crimes have become so rampant.
It's clear 35 years in law enforcement and a bunch of high liability units, managing this amount of personnel, all the experience that you have, you know your shit. You've done it all. You rode the ride. You wore the T-shirt. You've written the book in some instances, I'm sure. Then a program comes out that kind of paints this picture of you. The way they did, and I thought it was kind of really shameful to have your entire career be painted in that light. Like this is how you're going to be remembered.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the reason why I wanted to hear it from you. Mm-hmm. And we'll play clips, kind of what we're talking about, and we'll go into kind of the how this whole thing unfolded.
Right.
But yeah, the floor is yours. Tell us who the real Jeff Mellies is.
Well, the real Jeff Mellies is, first and foremost, I was a cop. I was a good cop.
Yeah.
Family man, husband, father, friend, and I'm the type of person that has always tried to do the right thing. It may sound cliche, but I'm that guy that if I get too much change back from the cashier, I make sure I give it back.
Right.
If there's somebody that's in front of me in Publix that's having trouble paying their bills, I don't have a problem stepping up and telling the cashier, I'll go ahead and cover it. That's just me. And I'm not bragging, but that's just me. I'm a heartfelt person. I truly care about people, and I've always tried to do the right thing. And I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
That's just in my DNA. I don't look to other people to solve my problems for me. If I'm confronted with something, I do my best to solve it.
You're a high agency individual.
I try to be. I've always tried to be.
Okay.
But I've always tried to be forthright. I've always tried to be honest. I've always tried to, like I said, do the job the right way. Have I been perfect? Absolutely not. Have I made mistakes? Of course. Was my personnel file completely clean? No. But after 35 years, it was like this.
Yeah.
It was minuscule. There were a couple things in there for like missed court appearance or missed training or something, nitnoid stuff.
Yeah,
But there was nothing in there of any violence. I never hurt anybody. I never, nothing like that.
And I'm of the belief that if you go any extended period of time in this job without getting anything in your personnel file, you've never left the station.
True.
Chances are you've done very little police work.
True.
If there's nothing in your personnel file.
True. No,
So,
I agree with
yeah.
that. I totally agree with that. That means that you're hiding.
Yeah,
Because again, and it doesnent mean the complaints didn't come in.
Right.
It just means that there was no truth to any of them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
they were properly investigated, and they went away.
Yeah.
Which is the way it's supposed to work.
Right.
Right. So yeah, my career was going along smoothly. I was at about the 30-year mark, 29 and a half, 30-year mark. I was, coasting. Everything was good. I was running the most high liability unit in the entire agency. None of my guys were getting jammed up for anything. I mean, you're talking about guys that are going hands-on with some of the most violent criminals in Broward County.
Right.
And not only that, but we put together a task force. I put together a MOU. The premise behind that was the criminals know where the boundaries are, right? They know that Miami-Dade doesn't go into Broward, Broward doesn't go into Dade. So what they do is they come up into Broward, they commit a crime, then they flee down into Dade, and they know that Broward can't follow them. Well, with this MOU and with all the sheriffs signing off on it, no, now we can follow them into Dade County, we can take law enforcement action, and we can lock people up.
Nice.
So, that's what we were dealing with. So I was dealing with this unit. We were having high success. The Unit of the Year, Grand Cordon Award, which is doing phenomenal acts over a six-month period. My people were promoting. Some people think negatively of that. No, they want to promote. They want to get away from you. They want to get away from the unit. No, that's not.
No, they want to advance.
They want to advance. And as a good supervisor, if you're a good supervisor, in my opinion, you're pushing your people to advance. You're bringing them in and you're asking them, hey, man, what are your career goals?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in a couple of years? How can I help you get there?
I always really, as a supervisor, I wanted to give my guys the cheat codes. I wanted them to be a better cop than I was.
Right.
And I tried to, obviously it's easier said than done. Maybe I came off a little too hard on some of them.
Right.
Probably not. But I always wanted, because I started this job way too young. I started 5 days after my 21st birthday. There was a lot to learn for me.
Dude, I was 20. My dad had to buy my first gun for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. I was 20 in the academy, and
Yep.
I couldn't buy a gun. I couldn't buy bullets.
Yep.
But, yeah, I wanted, especially with the young dudes, because their brains, their frontal lobes haven't even fully developed yet. These are like critical, transformative years. And if we keep hiring these young guys, you need to keep them on a tight leash,
Yeah.
and you need to really set them straight.
Well, not only that, but my philosophy was I'd been through it. I'd seen the pitfalls.
Yeah.
I had made the mistakes. And my job, not only as a peer and a mentor, but as a boss, is to make sure that they don't make those mistakes.
Of course. Yeah.
And give them the guidance that I didn't get.
Right.
And hopefully that will make an impact in their careers.
Yeah.
So I would routinely bring people in and say, hey, man, you've been in the unit for going on 4 or 5 years now. I think you've kind of stagnated. You're still doing excellent work. I don't want to lose you. But for your own sake and the sake of the agency, it's time for you to advance.
Right.
Let's start moving on. Let's take the sergeant's exam.
Yeah.
We're going to need to replace the sergeants that are in the unit one day. Mm-hmm. That could be you.
Yeah.
And taking what you've been able to learn, the guys not just the guys, we have women in our unit too, but the personnel in our units, they did more in one day than most patrol cops would do in 2-3 weeks, even a month.
Right.
They were good cops. So you learn all that, now take it to the next level and teach it.
Right.
That's how we continue on as a profession to be good at our jobs.
Continuity of competent cops. You know?
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. So that's kind of where we were at, and that's kind of what I was doing. I was at that mark where everything was flowing smoothly. The accolades were flowing. I reported directly to a major. I was in the lieutenant colonel and colonel's office basically on a weekly basis, giving them updates. They were absolutely in love with me and the work that our unit was doing. And the sheriff absolutely loved us. He'd fist bump us in the hallway every time he saw us. He demanded, bat T-shirts because we had logos and everything made up. And life was going good, man. No issues at all.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, that just blew up.
Let's get to that. Walk me through it. Set the stage. Who are the characters? How does this whole story begin?
All right. It's strap yourself in because it's interesting to say the least. Again, it's nothing that I ever expected to have to deal with or especially towards the end of my career. But this is what happened. This is my story. So around 2015, my wife, who is a consummate performer and a social media personality, saw an ad for the Mermaid show at the Rec Bar located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's a iconic bar. It's been there since I think the 50s. They were looking for mermaids. And I guess at the time, I didn't know anything about it. We'd never been there. We'd never even seen the show. But it was a one night, a weekend show, I believe it was. It was like for 1 hour. And you had like 2 or 3 mermaids that swam in a pool that butted up to a porthole bar. And that's why they called it the Rec Bar. So you'd sit at this bar, you'd have dinner, have some drinks, and you'd have mermaids swimming by.
Like SeaWorld for mermaids.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Correct. So she saw this ad for it, and she said, "You know what? I'm gonna go try out for this." And she did. And she wound up catching the eye of the owner, who called herself Medusa Serena. Her real name is Wendy, so I'm going to call her Wendy. And Wendy said, "Yeah, I think you have promise, but you need training." And my wife was all gung ho for that because she thought it would be cool to train and maybe do that one day. And she was always one of these girls growing up that was constantly picked on because she was slightly overweight. People called her fat, and she's, her whole life she's just striven to be beautiful. I think she's beautiful. I've always thought she's beautiful. But again, it was in the back of her mind that, this is what she wanted to do, and she wanted to give it a try. So she did. So she wound up training with Wendy for, it was probably well over a year, paying her every time she went to a training session. And then she eventually got to the point where she was allowed to enter the show.
When you say train, like this is mermaid training,
believe it or not, Carl, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Oh, I can imagine.
To be able to glide through the water and look like a real mermaid that's not struggling.
Right. Keep a smile on your face. And,
to be able to perform, do roles, do all kinds of different things. Still look natural.
Right.
Not look like you're turning blue because you're out of hair. Yeah. I give them a lot of props. For what they did.
That sounds quite the athletic feat.
It was a lot of work, and the effort and everything that she put in was something to behold. And she wound up making the team, and she wound up starting to perform. So she did that from basically 2015 to 2018 when she eventually left the show. So during that time frame, my wife and Wendy became friendly. They were a little bit older than the majority of the girls. They were a lot older. But, and the two of them started collaborating, and my wife started making the costumes and started putting a lot of effort into revamping a show that had been, there's only so many times you can swim back and forth,
right.
back and forth before you lose the interest of the customer.
Yeah.
My wife is extremely talented when it comes to the arts and beauty and makeup. She used to work for Mac. She's one of the most well-rounded people I've ever encountered. She's pretty much done it all, or partaken in it, seen it, learned it, read it, something. So she was doing the makeup for all the girls. She was making all the tails. She was doing all the stuff. And they slowly but surely started to advance the show from one show a weekend to then it went to 3. And then eventually they came up with the idea, my wife came up with the idea was, hey, let's do something really cool like an aqua burlesque. So we'll do like a burlesque show underwater. It's like a Vegas style type of performance that you're looking to achieve. And to do that takes money, takes time, takes effort.
Yeah.
And my wife decided that she would take that on. So she took that on. She started making all the costumes. She would rhinestone all the costumes. She would make all the tops for everybody. She outfitted everybody, fit everybody. Wendy would choreograph the routines and stuff like that. And they went ahead and they started this burlesque show. It took off like wildfire. They would make an announcement that the swimmers were going to be upstairs on top of the water. And if anybody wanted to get a picture with them or give them a tip, that they could leave their seat at the bar and go upstairs. The girls were averaging maybe $20 a night in tips.
Yeah.
My wife said, well, wait a minute. Why are we doing that? Number one, that's defeating the purpose of you're getting people now to cash out early at the bar. So the bar's losing money, the restaurant's losing money, and them having to go upstairs and get in line is you're losing money and for tips also. So she came up with the idea, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we have the performers, or at least one of the performers, go down before the show's actually even over with a tip jar and do a meet and greet, take some photographs and stuff like that, and pass the jar around. Well, wouldn't you know it, that took off like wildfire. So instead of making $20 in tips, these girls at the height were now walking away with $200-$300 in tips a night.
Great.
Okay? Just, again,
Yeah.
It's just my wife's vision. Wendy didn't have that vision. Wendy was a fantastic performer. She's probably the best swimmer I've ever seen, even to this day. And she's got a beautiful body, even for an older woman. But she just didn't have that vision. She was stuck, and she needed some help. So my wife was trying to help, and I was there with her on the weekends too, trying to help out. I would carry the gear and help set up the pool and different things like that. A woman by the name of Whitney Fair joined the show in about 2017, on or about. And Whitney was a very interesting character. She was very friendly to your face, but then you'd catch her doing odd things in the background.
Can you give me an example?
Well, just she would get I would photograph all the performers and stuff like that while they were swimming, and then I would send them to my wife, and my wife would dole them out to the girls that were swimming. They appreciated that because nobody else was really photographing them. They weren't able to see what they were doing, and she found that Whitney found that odd. She kind of made some derogatory comments,
like it was creepy.
Yeah, that I was that it offended her. She didn't want that done. Things of that nature.
You were kind of a fixture. This is your wife's thing, but I guess you were like a fixture there at that point.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't getting paid. I was just
Right.
I was just show up
Being a supportive husband.
I would show up with her and do what I could to help. In fact, the girls called me Papa Jeff.
Okay.
So I was.
And this one woman, she was the only one that had an issue with that, or
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's the only one, and it was weird because she would. It just seemed like every weekend there was some issue with somebody. In the military, they call them twists. Somebody who's always trying to create conflict.
Okay.
So it just seemed to me and to my wife that she would constantly move around the different women in the show and she'd have a problem with this one, then she'd have a problem with this one, then she'd have a problem with this one, then she'd have a problem with this one. So it was kind of, she was kind of a drag.
Did other people complain about her?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They did. But then she put on the smile and she put on the act, and it was we just everybody just
Brushed it off and left it alone.
Everybody just kind of dealt with it and went their merry way. What ultimately wound up happening is, you got to remember, there were probably 12, 13, 14 people, swimmers, at any one time. Now, they didn't all swim at the same time. There were some girls that left town for months at a time and then would come back and pop in and this, that, and the other. So, but it wasn't just like 3 or 4 women. There was at least a dozen that were swimming. Well, on or about 2018, there were some allegations being made of things being stolen from the dressing rooms. The girls would get changed in the one of the hotel rooms. They leave their purses behind, their makeup, which is expensive. It was suspected by some of the women that Whitney was stealing the property. So they asked me what they thought they should do and if I could help them. Prior to that issue even being raised, Whitney was having some problems, some personal problems, where she confided in my wife that she may have been the victim of some assaults at certain times. She called her one time hysterically crying, admitted to her that she didn't need this in her life because she is a convicted felon. She'd been arrested for drugs in the past.
In the show, she makes it a point to say that it was a misdemeanor marijuana arrest.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
They don't give you a Department of Corrections number.
Okay.
And you don't get sent to prison in Oklahoma for a misdemeanor. I mean, be real.
Okay.
For a
that's something that I know
No.
anybody else that watched that show may have picked up on. So I wanted to get it from you.
That was completely downplayed, and there was no. And that's part of the issue with this woman, is that nobody's done a deep dive into her.
Right.
Nobody's looked into her past, and I know what her past is, and that's she was doing some nefarious stuff. The girls came to me and asked me for help. And this was in early 2018, or I'm sorry, mid 2018.
When you say the girls, about how many in total brought this to your concern?
About 5.
Okay, and your wife included?
My wife included, so 4 plus my wife.
Okay.
So based upon the totality of everything that I saw with this woman and these new allegations of stealing, I mean, basically you're talking about a grand theft at that point, the stuff that they were talking about being stolen, I was worried. I was worried that this woman was near or around our house, that she was interacting with these women. So I ran a background check on her. I had my analyst, I was the detective sergeant out in Weston at the time, I had my analyst run a warrants check on her. Her actions made me believe that she was either hiding from something or someone, or she was a fugitive from justice. And I'll read you just kind of one thing that I put together. When it went to the IA thing, I said, I first met Fair sometime in 2017 when she was trained for the swim show. We were never friends. I had limited interactions with her. These facts are confirmed in Fair's sworn statement to IA. My wife stated that Fair called her out of the blue while we were on vacation in Massachusetts in December of 2017. During this call, Fair claimed that she had been sexually assaulted while out on a date with friends, and she also talked about her past personal issues, including the fact that she had been previously arrested and was a convicted felon. Over the course of the next several months, I found it odd that she owned no personal property, no form of identification. She was living in an unlawful pool house with no fixed address located to the rear of someone else's property. And then we get into the stealing of the bags and the purses while performing. Based upon these allegations, then the totality of the circumstances led me to believe that she could be hiding from law enforcement. She may possibly be wanted on outstanding charges. These facts led me to have my analyst run a warrant check on July 19, 2018. I never requested a David inquiry. I never asked for her driver's license to be run. I just wanted to know if she was a wanted fugitive. However, being a conscientious employee, my analyst ran everything. I considered that to be a preliminary investigative inquiry, and had I received actionable information concerning this check, I would have forwarded it to the Fort Lauderdale Police Department for further action. I did not conduct this check for personal reasons, nor I disseminate or share this information with anyone. Furthermore, Fair was aware that I had checked on her as evidenced by her own sworn statements to Internal Affairs.
That's going to be a big point of contention for people when you say it wasn't for personal reasons. You know, we're setting the stage. You're involved in this program with your wife at this point. You're not getting paid. You're a helpful, concerned husband. There's these allegations of a potential theft. Was there ever a police report about any of the theft?
No.
No? Okay. So these were speculation. Nothing was proven. She was not charged with any of this stuff.
Nothing.
You had a detective's hunch that she may have been a fugitive from justice from another jurisdiction. Just correct me where I'm.
No, there was something off with her, for sure.
There was something off.
110%.
And I think a lot of cops would sympathize with this too, especially if you're in like an on-call capacity and you're a cop 24/7, and that line, because look, we run people all day, every day in our official capacity as cops. It's just what we do. We get on the radio, we run people, we do it on our laptops. It's part of doing business. And I can understand, I can see an argument where that line kind of gets blurred, because technically you're in a different jurisdiction, but as part of the sheriff's office, you also have jurisdiction there too.
Correct.
Right? I can see the argument how. And look, every time we have to recertify for NCIC or David or something like, we have to take these stupid little tests, and it says, you know, you will not use it for personal reasons, for affairs of the heart, all this stuff that I always assumed was kind of like idiot proof. Like, who would do this? Looking at it from your perspective, you're a cop. You're, especially in your capacity in investigations, you're on the phone all the time, calling your people. People are updating you. So I get where that line can be blurry. You're off duty. You're involved with your wife's business venture, and all this is going on. You take it upon yourself to run this woman. You genuinely thought that you were acting within your capacity as a police officer.
Absolutely, 100%.
Do you see, from the agency's point of view, where the discrepancy is?
I see from the agency's point of view because of the way it was posed.
Okay.
The way it didn't come in as a single complaint.
Right.
When it came in, when the IA was filed, it was filed by multiple individuals through one attorney who had a clear and concise agenda. They all had their story straight. During the course of 2018, from February until my wife left the show in October, there was no bad blood between anybody.
Right.
There was no anything. Okay. I ran two people, a woman by the name of Janelle Smiley and Whitney Fair.
Well, why did you run this other woman?
Janelle was the first one because she was down at the bar, and everybody knew that I was a cop, and they knew us. The bar staff, everybody in the restaurant knew. So there were some problems with Janelle being at the bar while she was working, drinking, having inappropriate transactions with male guests. And then it became apparent through texts and through the girls talking, because she stopped showing up for work, and she'd say, I've been involved in another accident, another crash. She had been involved in multiple crashes in a short period of time. She was drinking at the bar, and the bar staff, basically came up to me and said, "Listen, this girl is, she's hammered every night. She leaves here, she's drinking, she's doing this, that, and the other." And I heard Janelle basically bragging about the fact that she was driving on a suspended driver's license.
I was just sitting at the bar, and
she was talking to, I forget who she was actually talking to, and it was one of the other girls at the time, because they were talking about the fact she kept wrecking her car. She said something to the effect of, Yeah, and I think my license is suspended on top of that. I can't be driving. I can't be wrecking my cars, this, that, and the other. That concerned me when I heard this. And I saw the damage to her car. I saw the text messages where she was banging out sick because she's saying, "No, I just got involved in another crash. Sorry, ladies, I can't make it tonight." I became concerned for not only her safety, but that of the general public.
Because she was drinking and driving.
Exactly. And not only that, but the bar staff is hearing that, and they're looking at me, and they're side-eyeing me the whole time, and they're like,
Yeah, you going to do something about that?
Exactly.
Right.
So I ran her driver's license. Mm-hmm. She came back valid. I told her that I ran her driver's license, but I said with the caveat, because we were friendly. I was not friends with them, but we were friendly.
Right.
And I told her, I said, "Listen, honey," I said, "I did you a favor. I ran your license. Your license is not suspended, but it will be suspended if you keep crashing into cars and driving intoxicated. Knock it off." And she was like, "Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. This, that, and the other."
She expressed gratitude.
Of course, absolutely she did.
Okay.
And so she knew about it. And that was I think I'd have to go back to the paperwork, but that was like February of 2018.
Right.
And then several months later is when I ran the criminal history check on Whitney Fair.
Okay.
Okay. And that came back, no wants, no warrants, but it confirmed what she had already previously told my wife, that she had been arrested in Oklahoma on felony drug charges and that she had done some type of prison time.
This DL inquiry, because obviously that's part of your IA file. Mm-hmm. That's what they got you on. What would you have done had her license come back suspended?
I would have told her. I would have told her, stop driving.
Okay.
And if you don't stop driving, we're going to have an issue. We're going to, I'll notify Fort Lauderdale. I'll do whatever I have to do. Right. I would not have directly interceded at that point, mm-hmm. unless I thought that she was, going to create great bodily harm to somebody. I would have done my best, to keep her from getting behind the wheel. But as far as taking law enforcement action, I wouldn't have done anything.
It could be argued that you did take law enforcement action by running her in the first place.
Right.
You see how you're putting one hat on as mm-hmm. a law enforcement officer concerned about the safety of, the people on the road for a potential drunk driver on a suspended driver's license. But if her license was suspended, you would have said, "Hey, knock it off, don't drive." Do you get how you might open yourself up to criticism?
Sure, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Listen, what we do and some of the things, how we do them, is difficult to kind of understand at times. Yeah. And it's also difficult to distance yourself from being a civilian and a husband to a cop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we can all agree
100%.
Okay. If I had to do it over again, I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Okay. It would have been that simple. But my mindset at the time was, I'm being made aware of something that could potentially cause harm to somebody or somebody else. If I don't take any actions at all, then I'd be liable, right? Because I knew about something, a potential criminal activity.
You were witnessed by the bartender who was serving this woman drinks.
Correct.
Listen to this woman declare that she's driving on a suspended license.
And the other women in the show that overheard it, that saw it, that knew that she was wrecking her cars. So that was my thought process at the time. Listen, all I was doing was a preliminary investigative inquiry. I just wanted to find out what I was dealing with, right? Okay. So if something had come back in a negative way on her, I probably would have informed her, mm-hmm. and I would have given her the opportunity to straighten up. Don't stop, knock it off. Or I would have reached out to probably Fort Lauderdale and said, "Hey, you've got to sandbag her as she's coming out of the hotel because mm-hmm. She's driving suspended and she's drunk."
If you had to relive that entire episode again, what would you do differently?
Carl, that's a very interesting question, because the easy answer would be, "Oh, I wouldn't do it." Right. I wouldn't do it. I would just throw my hands up and walk away. I'd turn my back and walk away. Mm-hmm. The honest answer, wouldn't change a thing. I would do the exact same thing because I know I did it with a clean heart. I did it with a clean conscience.
So I guess a better way to ask that is I want to keep people from getting jammed up. There's so many ways to get jammed up in this job. If somebody else was going through something similar to that whole episode, at least on that allegation, how would you keep them from getting jammed up?
It's a good question. I honestly don't know.
Were there things that you could have done differently maybe a report of doing something, maybe notifying a captain or anything? Was there anything that could have been done preemptively to prevent this hit job of allegations against you?
Yeah, looking back at it now, probably there were some things that could have been done, but
Right.
dealing with it at the time, again, I didn't think that I was doing anything inappropriate. I didn't think I was doing anything against policy. I didn't think it definitely wasn't illegal.
Right.
The policy that was written at the time was about 3 sentences long, and basically the policy concerning checking people in that manner was you can't use it for personal reasons, and you can't use the information gained for any type of monetary benefit. In my mind, I'm not running that for a personal reason. She's not doing anything personally for me. I don't even, barely even know her. I'm doing it for the general welfare and well-being of the public.
Did you disclose to anybody that
Never.
was involved in the criminal history of this woman?
No,
Or?
the only thing I disclosed again after I ran Janelle for a driver's license, I told her that I
told
did.
her.
She knew.
Yeah.
Okay. After Whitney, after I ran the criminal history check on Whitney, she was aware of that. My wife told her that I did.
Okay.
So she was firmly aware of that, and she was aware of that in early 2018, and it wasn't a problem. Everything gets muddied because of the way it was put together.
Okay.
I've got texts here that I'll leave with you, but here's the same person that's accusing me of illegally running a records check on her, asking my wife to have me run a records check on Wendy because the person that they're blaming, she's now trying to pass off as, oh, it's not me, it's Wendy who's stealing the stuff from everything. So she says in the chat, let's do a setup. I'm telling you, I want to catch the person in the act. It happens 3 times. Let's catch who's doing it, but I think we already know. I'm pissed. This is not a coincidence. I want to post that someone is stealing. Fuck this shit. How will we catch them? But Marina doesn't wear nude lipstick. We need to do this. We need to have a special op. If we catch someone in the act, what do we do after? Whitney, I want to catch this bitch. Confront them. If it's Marina, what are we going to say? Whitney, post it on Facebook page explaining why we set up camera and show everyone, including management. Get her fired. I'm just saying who was there when we were there. Whitney again. Have Jeff check. But if it's gone, we're going to have to go undercover and do a sting operation. Yes, a brand new Armani deep red lip stain. Marina was working the night. Mine disappeared too. What about you, Huku? So again, this is the same person that's claiming that I illegally ran her, wanting my wife to have me do a criminal history check on Marina.
Everybody's pointing to her as a possible thief.
And she's trying to deflect.
Okay.
So again, to answer your question, yeah, could I have done things maybe a little bit differently? Maybe. But again, my interpretation of the policy and state law was that, again, it's not the act itself, it's what you do with the information after the fact.
Right.
You can't utilize it. You can't publicize it. Again, it's put in place to keep these fools, and there are fools out there doing this job, that will get a license plate of a pretty woman in a car sitting next to them, run the plate, and then show up at her apartment later on with roses.
Don't ever do that, idiot. If you're watching this,
Don't do that.
Yeah.
That is what the policy was created for.
Yeah. I don't have enough fingers to count the amount of times. And this is just normie civilian world. They know you're a cop. They know you're granted these special privileges of, I can't count on one hand the amount of times that people have just, and it's not their fault. They don't know. Oh, can you run this? I want to buy this car. Can you run this VIN to see if it's stolen for me? Mm-hmm. Oh, or this guy, we got this shady neighbor that moved in. Can you run him? No, you can't.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just not.
And that's clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is absolutely clear.
And again, I see both sides. It's you give a very compelling argument. I can also see how an investigator says, nah, that's kind of bullshit. This is your wife's event. You were not acting in your capacity as a law enforcement. I can see both sides. I'm inclined to kind of go with you, just actually hearing how this whole thing unfolded. But, I'm trying to preemptively address some of the criticism that's going to
Listen, and the criticism could be valid.
Yeah.
You know, it's again, this is not a black and white business. It's just like use of force.
Yeah.
Use of force is never pretty.
Right.
Use of force is ugly.
Yep.
But it's part of the job, and it's required at times.
Yeah.
A lot of the policies and stuff that we do. Remember that's not written law. Those are guidelines.
Yeah.
Right. That you're supposed to, and then you're supposed to use common sense in your judgment. Well, I have 30 years at that point. I believe I have a lot of common sense, and I believe my judgment was pretty damn good up to that point. I had never had a complaint from anyone doing this previously, and it was all the way that it was presented, which culminated in an IA and a sustained on these allegations.
Got it.
And I can't put it any more succinctly than that. If I had the chance to do it over again, I don't know what I would do, to be perfectly honest with you. Knowing what I know now and knowing how things went, if I had a crystal ball, the easiest thing to do would have been to just turn my back and say it's not my problem.
All right.
But then how do I live with myself when she goes out and kills somebody?
Yeah, I mean, we're always, we're as cops, we're trained to play these hypothetical liability-based scenarios in our head over and over. We're looking at, it's like that meme with all the numbers and mathematics going on in our head, when you try to kind of predict how things are going to unfold. And the name of the game is covering your ass in this job. And I can sympathize with that argument that, all eyeballs were on you as this woman was, outright saying that, my license is suspended. She's drinking, she's driving, she's wrecking her car. I get it. I get it, and I think a lot of people would see it from your perspective as well.
Well, again, and I wouldn't disagree with anybody who saw it from a different perspective. They're allowed to have their perspective. Again, I don't know what the right answer is. I did what I felt was right at the time.
Right.
And the error that I made, the biggest error that I made was, and that they made into the whole essence of this farce of an investigation, is basically they were claiming that I was illegally running people because my wife had been fired from the show later on down the road, and that we were trying to use that information to retaliate.
Right.
Well, first off, my wife wasn't fired from the show until October of 2018. I ran Miss Smiley in February of 2018. They were still friends.
Yeah.
I ran Whitney Fair, I think it was May of 2018. They were still friendly. There was no animosity there. So that argument is complete bullshit. And it's always been bullshit from the start. The problem where I got into, and the problem that the IA investigators focused on because of the attorney representing these women, was there's a code that you use when you do these transactions on the database systems. And they ask you your reason for running these codes. Well, all of my runs were categorized as criminal investigation.
The only way that Jeffrey Mellies would have ever had access to that information was through running her name. I said, we got something.
So he was up in arms, the attorney, for these women, up in arms, going crazy, saying that I was conducting illegal investigation, off-the-book investigations on these women. I wasn't conducting investigations on these women. I was doing very simple preliminary inquiries and checks to see where that might lead.
And,
right?
and that check, presumably because that's what you do for a living, that check was what, as a default?
That was defaulted. That was pre-defaulted into my computer, and it's not an excuse. It's my own fault.
Okay.
But that's all I did at the time. It was I was an investigator, so everything that I was doing was an investigative request. So that was already defaulted and locked in. I didn't even realize it until after the fact when it came up and they asked me about it, and it was like, my bad.
Yeah.
Because there are other drop-down selections that you can use. And again, that didn't look good. And I readily admit that. That was my error, and I was not as astute as I should have been, with that categorization box.
For those watching it, because again, I don't want cops have a hard enough job as it is. There's so many landmines all over this profession. Would you say that a good rule of thumb when it comes to running people. If there's any chance that this could be perceived as personal, if there's any nexus to a family member or a friend or something that could give the appearance that this was, not done for legitimate reasons, could you see an argument that, hey, listen, you weren't a cop right then. I know you're a cop 24/7. I know you're on your phone all the time conducting police matters. That line gets blurry. Could you see an argument to where something like that, you would probably just be better off passing it along to Fort Lauderdale PD?
Oh, absolutely.
Something like that?
Absolutely. But 110%. I could definitely see the argument for that. In fact, it's after my incident, and there's been many instances with David, like your agency, everybody. People do dumb shit.
I agree.
And again, our policy has now changed to where it went from 3 sentences to now it's like a paragraph and a half.
Oh, so you created a...
I might have. It might have come from me. It might have come after. Actually, believe it or not, I think they actually updated it prior to my IA going.
Okay.
But I think they realized that because it was from the policy that I was going with was from 2017 was the last time it was updated.
Right. Yeah, you're not a real cop unless you have a policy named after you. So.
So it's possible. I don't know if I can take full credit for that, but it's possible that I participated in that. But yes, to your point, there's in today's society and the way people think and they react, especially with us, we have to really, really be diligent. We have to dot our I's and cross our T's. And when it comes to that, looking back at it, I was probably negligent in doing that.
Okay.
But again, it wasn't done for nefarious reasons. That whole thing about me, running illegal checks. Well, first off, there's a dozen other people in the swim show. I know for a fact that Ms. Fair reached out to each and every one of them and had them check their records to see if I ran them during that time frame. If I was doing nefarious stuff, how come more people didn't come forward? How come there weren't more? How come I didn't run everybody?
Right.
Just in my own defense. I did what I did because I believed I had cause to do it.
Law enforcement has been under such a microscope these days, and I feel for the young guys. I feel for the guys that are dealing with it. But yeah, my intuition tells me that, and as high agency as a cop as I was, and I was, I'm the guy that's going to solve the problem. Okay. And I can tell just based on your pedigree and based on your history, you're probably the same. Why bother passing the buck to somebody else? Just deal with it.
They're going to ask you, they're going to say to you, what's wrong with you, dude? Is your bad broke?
I get it just from our chairs here with our experience. I understand it completely. But as much as it pains me to say, in today's day and age, it's not worth it. We don't do ourselves any favors as cops. There's some dumb shit all over YouTube of cops acting like idiots. And, we are our own worst enemy. And if that's the representation that we get, it's really a disservice because nobody's going to highlight the lives we've saved, the tragedies we've prevented.
Right.
Like nobody gives a shit. You're just doing your job. Okay. They care. People want drama.
Yeah.
They want, they want to point at this person with power and drag them down. And I get it. It's human nature, but yes, in today's day and age, it's not worth it. We need to have conversations like this about the realities about this job. And like, there's all these efforts of, we want to humanize the badge. And then you're dancing on top of a fucking patrol car like an idiot. Like, that's not how we humanize the badge. We humanize the badge by having conversations like these about the nuances and complexities of this profession. And
you know what would have saved me? And as we're sitting here just talking about it, what would have ultimately saved me from the initial IA investigation and all the fallout from that was I should have pulled a case number and I should have written a report.
Right.
And I should have documented exactly what my observations were and why I did what I did. And that would have been the end of it.
When in doubt, scratch it out.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's a testament. I'll tell you, just because you're a generation before I am, that's a testament to how much the job has shifted and how much the liability has shifted on our ends, and which I seem to be keenly aware of. I like, if that same thing happened to me, I'd be like, hey, look, sucks. Let's call Fort Lauderdale PD. So But I get where you came from, a generation where this was just the way things
I
were
came
done.
from a generation where you documented stuff, you
Yeah.
put pen to paper, and you physically put pen to paper
Yeah.
when you did something.
Of course. Yeah.
You didn't have to put pen to paper to justify why you didn't do something.
Right.
So it's a generational slide, and it does take a little getting used to. But again, I'm not obtuse to that, especially being a boss. I get it, and I would instruct my guys all the time. Hey, listen, write something out telling me why you didn't do X, Y, and Z.
You had a boomer moment.
I get it.
Yeah. Okay.
I get it. So we'll move on from there. So ultimately, my wife winds up having a dispute with Wendy, who's the owner of this show. Wendy, at that time, is in the hole to us to the tune of well over $5,000 because for costumes. My wife didn't even charge her for the work. My wife would work 16, 17-hour days sitting at our kitchen table sewing. She self-taught herself to sew and rhinestone and putting together all the costumes and everything for all the shows, and with the promise that she'd be paid back. Well, she was never paid back.
Your wife comes on board and she adds flair. She adds she's able to kind of expand the empire, so to speak.
She took it to the next level.
Right. And she's now kind of a business partner with this woman.
Yes. In fact, we actually approached Wendy at one point and said, listen, just let us help you. We've got careers. We don't need the money, right? Just pay us, what you can pay us. In fact, I think the agreement or the talk at the time was, hey, just everybody else was getting paid per show. Pay my wife X amount per week. And for that, she'll swim X amount of days, or she'll perform X amount of days, and she'll provide all the costumes.
Right. So in the spirit of expanding this empire together, which I'm sure she saw some fruitful opportunities at the end of the tunnel, and she was creating costumes. She was, I guess, managing these shows.
The hotel had come to us at one point and wanted us to take over the show.
Oh, okay.
Because Wendy was so difficult to work with. They actually came to us, and we told her that. We had dinner with her and her husband, and we said, listen, just so you know, they've come to us and want us to, we don't want that. This is yours. You started this. We want to be, we're fair, honest, decent people. Let us help you. Let us help you maintain what we've built this up into. But in order to do that, we need a couple of things.
Right.
And we need to be paid back for what you owe us. So ultimately, between that and then an incident with Whitney in the pool on the last night that my wife swam, my wife was let go in August of 2018, and that started the rest of this chaos that I've been dealing with for the last 5 years.
And that whole argument was just basically between your wife and Whitney. Somebody calls somebody else fat. That's what they showed on the
Exactly.
on the show.
Call the other one heavy or something.
All the girls are like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That was somewhat accurate. And Whitney was pissed off, and a couple of the other girls were pissed off because my wife was holding their feet to the fire. These women would show up. Now, again, people were paying. They were waiting online for months at a time to get a seat at a table to watch this show, this underwater burlesque show that my wife put together. These girls would show up 10, 15 minutes before the start of the show. And my wife was like, listen, you can't do that. There's a call time. You have to be here. You have to be dressed. We have to make sure that you're here. We all have to be on the same page. Can you get here at a certain time, right? So that was that last night was one of those nights where I think she confronted her. She said something to Whitney because she showed up like 10 or 15 minutes before showtime. She's like, hey, what are you doing? And that set her off, and she went completely crazy, and she started, ranting and raving and calling my wife fat and telling her she was going to punch her in the face and all this other stuff. To the point my wife got out of the pool. She got dressed, she came downstairs, and she sat at the bar with me. She was upset, she was crying, and I was like, okay, well, Wendy was out of town. My wife was in charge of the show. I said, when Wendy gets back, we'll have to talk to her, and that'll be that.
Yeah.
Well, Whitney got to Wendy first. And gave her the spiel. And then on top of that, Whitney was already feeling threatened by us taking over the show and my wife outshining her, even though, again, nobody swam like Wendy. She was fantastic in the water. But that led to her leaving my wife a voicemail and saying, yeah, your services are no longer needed. And that was, I think, August September of 2018.
All right. It's a messy breakup.
Yeah, it was not the greatest.
Yeah.
So she then took to her platforms and started basically, calling them out about their, how they treated her and, how Wendy owed her money and this, that, and the other. Well, that didn't go over too well. Her admirers started coming for my wife. Our house was doxxed. Our address was, put out there. We started getting phone calls at all hours of the night. Cars were circling the house. We became a little fearful.
Yeah.
To the point where I would come home after a midnight shift and there'd be strange cars parked out in front of my house or on the block. I was running tags, to figure out who was who. We just decided to move. We were like, listen, we need a change of pace. We were living out in Western Broward. We spent a lot of time off Las Olas. Let's go find a place in East Fort Lauderdale. So we got a hold of a realtor. Realtor showed us like 5 or 6 different places. We found a place that we truly liked. It was within our price range. It was actually a little bit more than we wanted to pay, and we moved in.
Somebody sent me a screenshot of Mia's Facebook that said we just signed on our new house, and it was a picture of the house next door to me.
This is the part where people are going to be like, come on.
Yeah.
Your wife has this falling out with this young lady. And you move and you happen to wind up directly next door to her.
Yeah, it's you couldn't make this up.
Explain.
If you tried.
Explain.
How do you explain? The gods were frowning upon me. At
So
that
you
time.
didn't have your realtor run this girl, figure out her address, and tell your realtor
Nope.
to. Okay, but
No,
I mean,
no.
you understand how inconceivable that type of coincidence is, especially like considering the drama you guys had.
It's one of those things that lightning struck twice in the same place.
Okay.
It's just one of those. Does it happen? Yeah, it happens, but it's very infrequent. And I'll be the first one to tell you, it blew our flipping minds when we figured out that she was next door. We had no clue that she was there, none whatsoever. Had we known, we would have never signed a lease. We would have never moved in.
The ink was dry at that point. You
That's
had
it.
no.
We had no recourse. It was already signed. And again, I've got the thing. I've got the lease here showing that the realtor found the home for us. We didn't put her up to it. We were there we moved in November of 2019. We saw her in her driveway one time. Had no contact with her. We discussed amongst ourselves: do we go up and try and make nice, or do we just ignore her? And we decided, based upon how she acts and she's either high or low. It's tough to catch her in the middle. Like, just ignore her. Just leave her be. Let's just be adults and go on about our business. And that's what we did. So from November to August, we had no issues. In July, we started using the tiki hut. We were sitting out back, and we noticed that there was a floodlight that kept going on and off every like 10, 15 seconds, and it became a nuisance. And it was, you couldn't sit back there and relax without the floodlight going on and off and blinding you. There was nothing to block it. There was no trees or foliage or anything like that. So we made repeated attempts to have the landlord fix it, and he never responded. He never got around to doing it. To that point, we believed that Miss Fair was still living in the pool house. So the house next door to us is a main house, common driveway, pool house, and then they've got a 2-story, like a mother-in-law quarters, upstairs, downstairs, that are turned into separate apartments. There was a family living in the main house. We believed Fair was in the pool house. So we have this issue with this floodlight going off, on and off for months. Numerous text messages sent to the landlord asking him, can you please take care of this for us, right?
And where was this shine? It was shining like directly into your backyard. Was it?
Our tiki hut is on the opposite side of that. That's where the floodlight was positioned. So one night I got tired of it, and I went over the fence, and I went up to unscrew. I said, okay, I'll just take care of it myself. I'll just unscrew the light bulb. Again, we have no idea that she's living anywhere other than the pool house. And even at that time, we've come to find out that she wasn't even present on the property when that occurred. She was subletting to somebody else.
You have this floodlight. It's driving you and your wife crazy.
Yep.
You contact the landlord of that property.
Numerous times.
Did you get any response from him at all?
None.
Nothing.
None whatsoever.
Okay. I guess you're exasperated. You go, you climb the fence, pull out a ladder and you unscrew the light bulb?
I was going to unscrew the light bulb.
Okay.
But when I got up there, I realized, wait a minute, this isn't a light bulb. What the hell is this? It turned out to be a Ring camera.
I noticed that there was a camera pointed directly into my backyard.
If it's a Ring camera, it's pointed directly into our backyard. So it's audio and video recording us. I want to find out if this camera's actually functioning. So I took a piece of tape and put it over the lens. If somebody's actually actively monitoring it, they're going to notice that immediately and they're going to contact me. On top of that, I put a note in the mailbox for that resident addressed to the guy that we thought lived upstairs saying, hey neighbor, I just realized that this is a Ring camera. It's pointed directly into my backyard. I have a real issue with that. Please contact me at your earliest convenience so we can discuss a remedy to this. And I left my name, my telephone number, and I said, sorry about the tape, but it was the only way that I knew to try and get your attention. Because again, I couldn't even get to the door of those apartments because there's a locked gate there that you need a key code to get to.
Was it their camera that they needed for regular security purposes that was watching over their property, or was it intentionally put up there for voyeurism?
So here's an excerpt from the police report that we filed in connection with the camera. This was our first report to Fort Lauderdale to try and tell our side of the story, because up to this point, she had been harassing Fort Lauderdale and making multiple complaints, erroneous complaints against us for no reason other than to harass us. The camera's placement at the back of the building, where there are no doors, walkways, or belongings to monitor, made it appear that it was mounted there for the sole purpose of monitoring or annoying the neighbors. This is an independent Fort Lauderdale police officer.
From the police report,
Okay.
yeah.
The camera was eventually moved lower and is still in a place below the top of the fence line, which again makes it appear that it is now there for the purpose of capturing audio recordings, as one can assume the video feature is now useless. So eventually, she was made to lower the camera after all of this, but she lowered it to the fence line. She didn't remove it, but she still wanted to listen to us. Okay?
One could argue that you trespassed on their property to tamper with their camera. The flip side, their camera, based on the police report, is also put in a position for no other reason apparently than to, be a voyeuristic device for the occupant of that house. So I'm weighing two different criminal codes here. Think you have a valid concern, you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your own backyard. That camera appears to be there for no other reason than to just look at you guys, which is really creepy and kind of scary. Was there a statute? Was there a criminal voyeurism statute?
Yes.
That applies to this?
Yep, absolutely. So we eventually found out during the course from July to about August, we eventually found out they were Whitney's cameras. The maintenance guy clued us in and said, oh, no. Those are Whitney's cameras. That freaked us out even more, because we're like, you got to be shitting me. This woman is viewing us in the privacy of our backyard. Then we really lose our shit, and we start stepping it up with him, sending him more and more emails, more and more text messages. Please have her take down this camera tomorrow, or we will escalate this complaint. Here is a copy of the Florida State statutes pertaining to filming on our property, which basically says you cannot have a camera positioned in such a way where you have an expectation of privacy to possibly disrobe in your backyard.
That's for the camera aspect. And what about the no trespassing sign?
He didn't even address that.
On what grounds would you be entitled to have a no trespassing sign removed?
Just the totality of things. You've got the camera illegally viewing us, and you've got a no trespassing sign. You got to remember, this is less than 6 feet between the property lines.
Right.
So the minute I walk out my back door, I see a camera who's videotaping me, and a big, huge red no trespassing sign.
Wait, had you taped up the camera by this point?
The camera that was in August.
Then she puts up a no trespassing sign, presumably, and I'm just thinking out loud here, to if you did it again, she would have grounds to file criminal charges, maybe?
Maybe. So December 3rd, the following day, she calls Fort Lauderdale and makes her first police report, claiming that I climbed up the ladder and I messed with her camera and I'm leering in her windows and I'm doing all this other nefarious crap.
Right.
So Fort Lauderdale shows up the next morning at my door with a special victims sex crimes sergeant, sex crimes detective, a canine, and they want to know what's going on because she made it sound like I was some voyeur or I was, going to make some attack on her or something. So I took the officers to the backyard, showed them the camera, told them exactly what was going on. They completely understood. They did a report. They were like, yeah, no, you're in the wrong. You need to lower those cameras. You're in violation of Florida State statute, da-da-da-da. They wrote a report. They did a supplement to it. They closed it out. So again, up to this point, we had done absolutely nothing to this woman. She's harassing us by illegally videotaping us. And when we tried to call her out on it, again, I'm a problem solver. I'm not going to call the police and bother them for this bullshit and if I can fix it myself.
Right.
It should have been fixed by the landlord. And he even asked, he said, well, what's the law? And so I sent him a copy of the statute. I said, listen, this is what we're dealing with. This is potentially a felony. I want this removed. He tipped her off. She called the cops. She wanted to get the jump on it and said that she tried to flip the tables, which is exactly what she's done through this entire episode. Everything that she's accused my wife and I of doing, everything she herself has been doing.
Projection.
We are the victims. And I'm not just saying that to, woe is me. No. We are the victims. We've always been the victims. We've never done a thing to this woman. She now calls ESO Internal Affairs and lodges her first complaint against me for going over the fence and yelling and screaming at her in her driveway.
Jeff was barefoot with no shirt on, had definitely been drinking.
Get rid of these lights because they're fucking bothering us.
I was called such a fucking nefarious cunt.
She's such a nefarious fucking cunt.
Can you get into that? Talk about how that transpired, how that went down.
So after she files her first internal affairs complaint with BSO, which is closed out January 14th, 2021, no employee misconduct found. My wife and I are sitting in our living room. We're watching TV. We're having a couple of cocktails. We're relaxing. We're home. It's our day off. And she places entertainment-style LED lighting around the exterior of the property.
I purchased some new LED lights so I could change the colors and just really light up the place and give it a cool vibe.
At 20-30 hours, I return to the property to see the landscape lighting. The majority of the lights are bright purple LED spotlights that shine vertically up into the queen palm tree. The light definitely radiates into the second floor windows of the Mellies residence. This is our window lit up from our side. That's what we're looking at. Do you see the obnoxiousness of that?
It's definitely blue and purple.
My entire house was lit up like a circus.
Reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where Kramer had a KFC put.
Yes.
Can't you shut the shades? They are shut.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Except again, we're just watching TV, minding our own business, and all of a sudden the entire house is lit up.
It's leaking into your house. I mean, it's illuminating your belongings blue, which
Again,
I think
with the police report, she said the same thing.
Yeah.
She said it's obnoxious. So we go outside. I don't have any shirt on. I've got my flip-flops on, a pair of shorts. I've got my drink in my hand. My wife's got her cocktail in her hand.
How many drinks in are you at this point?
I don't even remember. Probably 2 or 3.
Enough?
We're feeling
Yeah.
good.
Okay, good.
And as my wife and I are discussing what to do next, we see Whitney and her business partner, who's her boyfriend, and their dog walking towards us from the south side of the residence. They intentionally walked directly at us. They wanted a confrontation. They provoked the confrontation. So a woman who's supposedly scared to death of us because we're so violent that she had to tell her family there's something happened to her, look at us. She walked straight at us, her and her boyfriend, whoever this guy was, with their phones out, already video recording, already starting with their nonsense. I asked them, what's up with the lights? Are you out of your mind? Why are you doing this? We've stayed away from you. We just want you to stay away from us. And she made some derogatory statements. He called me a corrupt cop and said that he's going to have me arrested for jumping the fence. There was some other language that was in there, but he antagonized.
Yeah.
So we fired back. My wife screamed at her. I think I called her a couple of names also. But again, what is shown on the HBO video and all the videos that she then proceeds to show, there's cameras all over the place.
Right.
Why isn't the initial punch that they threw shown.
We all know why.
Of course, but I'm just saying, I don't just automatically start hurling insults at people for no reason.
Right.
Right? I have to be provoked. Okay? I wouldn't have survived as long as I did in the profession that I did by being that short-tempered.
Right.
It just doesn't happen that way. And my wife was the same way. She'd had enough. You know? So yeah, we used some derogatory language, but that was the tail end of what had initially happened.
This was the culmination of just this pressure valve that had been building up over months at this point.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because again, we're like, she's claiming that we're doing certain things, or we're harassing her online and doing all that. I don't have any online presence. I've never harassed her per se online.
What about that white trash comment?
That was one comment that I made, and again, that's all on private.
Okay.
Okay, so she was trolling our accounts via troll accounts to be able to even see that. And again, I'm not that savvy when it comes to that kind of stuff, but that's what I can assume.
Right.
But again, even that was part of her initial complaint to BSO. BSO concluded there was no employee misconduct. I'm allowed to state what I want to say. I have a First Amendment right.
Yep.
Following morning, April 5th, 2021. About 10 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, I think it is. I get up, I look out the window, and I see Whitney standing in the driveway along with two males, one of which I believed was our landlord, Scott. So I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm going to go over and I'm tired of this ridiculousness. I want to live in peace. I'm going to go over and quash this right now. So I walked over there and I began to speak to her. It turned out it wasn't Scott. It was somebody else that looked like him. It was two maintenance guys. And I had a conversation with her, and I didn't yell at her. I didn't scream at her. I didn't curse at her. I just basically told her, listen, why are you doing this? Why can't we get along? What's with the lights? You know, why can't you just stay on your property? We'll stay on ours. We'll just stay away from each other. I said, we don't want to cause you any problems. Don't cause us any problems. And she gave me this song and dance that she can do whatever she wants. It's there for her security. She'll turn them up as high as she wants. And at the end, she said, you know, Jeff, I have hours of video of you leering in my windows. And I go, what? Basically insinuating that I'm, going to sexually assault her.
This kind of coincides with her initial complaint about your photography. Is there any validity to it? Were you looking at her?
None. None
Okay.
whatsoever. In fact, I was doing the exact opposite. I was just trying to stay completely away from her. If I saw that she was out walking her dog, I went the opposite direction.
Right. She's going to argue that she put that camera up to catch you in the act.
Well, that's the other thing that's interesting about this whole story is, and again, there's so much, it's so convoluted, but when you actually go through it and you look at all the statements that she's made to not only the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, sworn statements, but also to Internal Affairs and everything like that, well, she tells two completely different stories because she's lying out of both sides of her mouth. At first, she says, oh, well, the cameras were there before you even moved in. And then she turns around and tells, I think she even told HBO during the show that because of us, she had to put the cameras up to protect herself. Well, which is it? When I went over and tried to talk to her, and she starts making those allegations, that I said to her directly, I remember very distinctly, I said, if you have that video footage of me leering in your windows, then I highly suggest that you provide that to the Fort Lauderdale Police Department. I said, I know that you don't because I haven't done anything like that because I don't even find you remotely attractive. I said, in all honesty, I'd rather sleep with your dog than you. Okay? And it's coincidentally, things really escalated after I made that statement down the line. But that's me and that's my personality and that's what I said. So I left it at that. There was no yelling, there was no shouting, there was no screaming, no threats, no nothing. I just said, listen, please, just lower the lights. So shortly thereafter, with me going over and apologizing to her, she then calls Fort Lauderdale and files another police report against me, claiming that I'm harassing her and trespassing on her property. Where's the video footage of that? There's a camera 5 feet from there, from where we were standing. If that were the case, she would have had it. Why didn't she provide it? Because it didn't happen that way. And she's a liar. We hire a law firm, and we send her a cease and desist letter. We're trying to do things the right way.
Yeah.
Right?
If you had to estimate, how many neighbor disputes have you handled in your
Hundreds.
capacity as a patrol officer?
Hundreds.
we often see these things escalate predictably. You know, we see, well, unfortunately, you don't get to pick your neighbors. So just in my mind, like I'm so keenly aware of the pitfalls and downsides of starting this arms race against a neighbor. I try to be as neighborly as possible because I recognize how sensitive these issues can get. I'm presuming you share a similar view. You don't want any conflict with your neighbors.
Agreed. I've got enough conflict at my job.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
what we have to deal with on a daily basis. My home is my castle. That's my peace.
Of course.
You know? And I mean, again, I'm not trying to be religious, anti-religious, anything like that. But again, it's just, it was God's will that brought the two of us together. You can't script that.
What do you think he was trying to teach you?
I don't know. I still haven't figured it out.
Okay.
Up to this point, again, I've been a 30-year cop. I have no history of employee misconduct. I have blue ribbons for good conduct.
You know how to conduct yourself professionally, and you know that you're a big fish in a little pond. You understand the liability aspect from all angles.
Exactly. And that's, again, that's not saying I'm perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not. I make mistakes, you know, every once in a while. I can be a little hot-tempered at times in certain situations, and I do tend to say what I feel at times. But for the most part, yeah, I've never experienced anything like this. I've never had any problems with my neighbors. In fact, I've always been on terms where, like, my neighbors go out of town and they're like, here's the keys to my house. Can you keep an eye on it for us?
Yeah.
You know, if the alarm goes off, here's my alarm code. Can you check it for me? I mean, I've never. This is new territory to me. So I'm like, I don't want to bother the police because I know it's a nuisance. I know it takes time away from their real duties, especially over frivolous stuff like this. But at the same time, we got to the point where, like, well, listen, we've got to start protecting ourselves here. We've got to start documenting these instances that are going on because she's telling the entire world and she's being believed, you know, and they're frowning upon us like we're some kind of scumbags, and we're the exact opposite. She sits down and writes a 3-page rebuttal to this cease and desist and sends it certified mail back to my attorney. I don't have that with me today, but I can come up with that. I'm sure I've got it stashed someplace. The attorney contacts me and says, like, what do you want me to do? I'm like, well, what can we do? You know, there's nothing more we can do.
What was the substance of her rebuttal?
Oh, she went into just a tirade. She went off onto a tirade about how we were attacking her and abusing her online, and we were, you know, climbing the fence again and putting tape over it. It's just rehashing the same stuff, but just putting it in a different spin, different light. Your clients are harassing me. They're doing this. They're doing that. So on top of it all, being the conscientious employee that I am, I never hid any of this from my agency. Whenever anything happened on the property, especially involving the police, my first phone call was to my internal affairs captain. I mean, my chain of command, my major first, and then to the internal affairs captain to let him know.
Right.
Because I don't want them to be blindsided.
Of course, yeah.
And I haven't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
So she doesn't get any satisfaction from any of this. So now she turns her attention to my wife. And she files a harassment and bullying social media complaint against my wife to Coral Springs. She also enlists her friend Janelle Smiley to file a complaint in which she alleged that my wife was mentally unfit for duty. She was upset because my wife had posted on her social media, I don't know if it was Instagram or what it was, but a picture of her and her crew at one of the scenes, and she was upset that she was using her social media on duty. So that was part of her complaint. She called him first, and then she sent an email. Dear Chief Mosier, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today regarding Mia Mellies. I wanted to share a few items with you. As I mentioned in our conversations, Mia Mellies moved directly next door to me about 2 years ago, and she had already harassed me online for a year. The bullying and harassment have continued to escalate. Although I have ignored it for 3 years in the hopes that it would eventually stop and move on, I've had to file numerous police reports against her husband for trespassing on my property, all captured on video, which I can send you. The following video is my business partner, her boyfriend, and me walking away from Mia Mellies and her husband while Mia screams at me from the end of her driveway. That was the screaming incident. I have turned the property that I live in into a very successful Airbnb called Casa Zen. Some of the screenshots below are targeted at me and my Airbnb business that I feel are threatening. The screenshots that she showed were, again, of her and her crew and of a helicopter and something else. So then she follows up on October 4th with another email to Chief Mosier, threatening him now. I'm following up on our telephone conversation we had on September 22nd regarding the online harassment of your Coral Springs Fire Department employee, Mia Mellies. I did not hear back from you last week as stated in your email on September 23rd. Since our telephone conversation, the online harassment and false accusations posted by Mia Mellies through public social media have increased and her hostility has escalated. I feel threatened and I feel that the Coral Springs Fire Department has done nothing to help protect me, which leaves me with no choice but to reach out to the police and or mayor. Please get back to me ASAP regarding this matter.
So when she's outlining what she's calling bullying or threats, this is basically your wife using her platform to kind of, air her gripes about how things went with the mermaid thing, and then all the drama that came after with this woman. Like, what threats is she talking about?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Carl, there, to my knowledge, there are none.
The bullying is basically just your wife kind of recapping to her audience kind of how this went down. And, I guess presumably some of the drama of being neighbors with this woman. Did that come up? Or
to be honest with you, I'm not even familiar with that because, again, I don't have the social media that she does. And I don't even keep track of that. But I can tell you right now, my wife was never, she never mentioned her. By name. She never, while all this was going on, especially with the IA complaints and things like that, she wasn't talking about her. She wasn't talking, this is all made up in her mind.
Okay.
So now she's threatening them that if they don't take action, she's going to go to the city manager. What did Coral Springs do with this? What did the fire department do? What is the fire department better at than law enforcement? Protecting their employees when it comes to internal affairs stuff.
Yeah, some would say that. Yeah,
they are the agency anyway. They're like, listen, you're not doing anything on duty. There's nothing here that she's provided no evidence of any wrongdoing on your part, so they closed it out.
Yeah,
there's nothing there. They've made veiled threats online that they were going to kill our dog. We made a police report about that. So going back to the original internal affairs case that they filed through their attorney, alleging that I illegally ran them through the databases. The IA came back and sustained 3 out of the 4 allegations against me, and they gave me a 3-day suspension. Basically, the person in charge of the Professional Standards Board stood up in the middle of the meeting after my rep gave his spiel and said, bottom line is he ran his friends. We're going to get sued. Let's sustain it and move on. So that's what they did. So I went to work. I put together 2 binders full of exculpatory information. I put together, this is like part of it where I put exhibits and everything like that where they could turn to, because the guy that was overseeing it at the time, our pre-disciplinary thing, was a former judge, so I figured he'd kind of like it in that format. Yeah. 2 binders full of stuff set on his desk at the pre-D hearing before actually accepting discipline. And they sat on it for 8 months. Not one word, not one iota, not one anything. The only time that they ruled on it and they came back with the suspension was after the first Bob Norman article came out. About the mermaids going after the cops and this, that, and the other. February 23rd, 2022, after they sustained the allegations against me, they file a lawsuit against me. And then they file a civil rights violation against my wife individually, claiming that she used her feminine wiles to coerce me into doing her bidding.
I'm not familiar with that.
That's how
feminine wiles?
That's how it was written in the actual lawsuit. So basically what they're insinuating is that she's using her sexual prowess and her feminine ways to influence me to do things upon her command. So I did the running of these people at her behest.
Okay. Google search feminine wiles generally refers to the use of charm, flirtation, and other subtle feminine traits to influence or persuade others.
So
this is the shady tactics that your wife used on you.
Yes.
To get you to participate in her drama.
Yes, and if she did it, she did it unbeknownst to me. There were no feminine wiles that were used. What I did, the actions I took were mine and mine alone.
Right, okay.
My wife was clued into it after the fact, but she never. So in April 2022, Bob Norman and the Miami New Times run a hit piece on both of us, false, fabricated information. All in all, I think the New Times and Bob Norman did 3 or 4 articles about me.
Wow.
Articles were written about this mermaid cop drama in the New York Post. Sun Sentinel picked up on it. It was all out there that this big, mean, harassing, hulking cop is going after this poor, innocent little girl who's never done anything wrong in her life.
Right.
And again, they've never done any. They haven't even done a preliminary dive into this woman's history.
Did they ever at any point reach out to you for comment or anything like that?
Of course they did. But I was under IA investigation at the time, so I couldn't comment.
Yeah.
And she knew. And they knew. They reached out to my wife, too, and same thing.
Yeah.
She couldn't comment either. Plus, the lawsuit was still pending. So they knew.
Yeah.
They knew they could write whatever the hell they wanted to write, and we couldn't defend ourselves. Just there's no way to do it. I would either get in trouble internally or via the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So it was all done very tactfully on their part. You know, it all goes through here again. So September 12th, they hit my wife out of with this lawsuit. Now, coincidentally, the funny thing about this is that the statute of limitations had already expired.
On which charge
to add my wife to the civil rights lawsuit. So it had already expired. They had X amount of days. It already expired. It expired on that Friday. Okay, because Wendy, who was now the third participant in this lawsuit, wanted no part of it because she knew it was all bullshit.
Right.
And she knew that if she ever went to depot, that she'd be destroyed based upon what we know about her and everything else. So she wanted no part of it. But at the last moment, it would appear to me that Colin, the attorney, was able to convince her to sign off on this suit. So then we had to go out and hire an attorney to represent my wife because BSO was representing me because I'm their employee, but they're not going to represent her. She's not an employee. So that cost us about another $5-6 grand to hire an attorney. That was eventually completely tossed because there was absolutely no evidence to support any claim whatsoever. But again, it was done simply to harass and annoy us. You know, throughout this entire time, for a woman who claims that she's scared of us and that we're constantly harassing us, and to the point where had to tell her family that if anything happens to her, they've got to look at us, right? Because we've been so aggressively mean to her. Mm-hmm. We filed police reports. She's walking around our house in front of our home within feet of our dog after she previously posted about possibly harming her. She's up against our fence line.
Tell me about that. What comment did she make that would suggest that she wanted to harm your dog?
Well, there was a text thread between Janelle and Whitney talking about different things, and they said, we have a husky, we own a husky. They said, and everybody knows huskies make great fur coats. Just, Yeah.
Very tasteless. Not necessarily arising to a threat, but
right.
Tasteless humor. Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
But with the totality of everything else that's going on, we're like, you know what? Hey, we made another report.
Yeah.
She's continuously walking around in the front of our residence, around the neighborhood. If you're afraid of somebody, are you going to walk in front of their house or around their house? You're going to walk your dog. You can go to a different direction. Right? If you're that afraid of somebody. No, she continually walks. We have video and audio of her walking. Her dog's shitting on our lawn. She's not picking it up. She's just doing her thing, just moseying down the street, just doing her business, all the while telling everybody that she's scared to death of us. This behavior escalated to the point of December 12th. We're talking still 2022. My wife exits the house at about 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:45 in the morning to go to work, and she encounters Miss Fair, Whitney, standing on the gravel driveway of our driveway, looking at the back of my unmarked vehicle.
She's on your property.
She's on our property.
Looking into your police car.
Looking into my police car, which we had documented with her unleashed dog. This was approximately 5:30 in the morning, and she fled upon seeing my wife come out. We filed another police report. Mm-hmm. Again, it just goes to the totality of who's harassing who.
Right.
August 10th, 2023, after being held in limbo for over the year, the SAO closes out their investigation on me, citing no criminal conduct on my part. So just to kind of recap, what the general public probably doesn't know is there are a lot of procedures in place that govern police and police misconduct allegations and things like that. It's not only the agency that's involved. When certain things are alleged to have occurred and you have certain allegations that are sustained, it doesn't just end there.
Right.
It goes to the
CJST, Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission.
Correct, yeah. Where they have the ability to sanction you, suspend you, pull your certificate.
Right.
It's serious. And again, all for making a couple of queries that I thought at the time were righteous. But all in all, anyway, so we've been dealing with this now for going on almost 3 years. When the IA case closed, their attorney was jumping up and down, going apeshit, and demanding that I be criminally charged. So they wanted the case sent to the state attorney's office. And again, instead of my agency standing up and saying, no, there is no criminal conduct here, which they rightfully could have done at any second, they said, no, we'll send it to the state. So they sent it to the state.
Do you think they did that just to kind of get that monkey off their back and just
COIA?
Yeah. Okay.
That's all it was. It was just to cover their ass.
Yeah.
Again, do I think it was right? No, I don't think it was right. If you believe that it's the same thing with us. If you don't believe that you have a crime, do you send it to the state attorney's office to review?
No. Little bits and pieces of evidence, and it's see if they can make heads or tails out of it.
Yeah.
See if they can.
You either think you either have it or you don't, right? And that's how you do it. But again, we do things sometimes ass backwards in this profession, and that's to cover their own ass.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. So they sent it to the state attorneys of the public corruption unit. And when that's sent to the public corruption unit, you're put on what's called a Brady list.
So I know the Brady list is for deception and testimony. That's also, I guess, pertaining to misconduct in general?
Correct.
Okay.
Any type of employee misconduct, alleged misconduct, if the state is actively looking into a possible criminal allegation against you, you're put on a Brady list, which means that you can't be used for witness testimony, you can't be used in a court of law. You're basically pushing paper clips.
Right.
It took the state attorney's office well over a year to review the ridiculousness of this. And
all the while, you're on a Brady list at this point.
Yeah, I'm on the Brady list.
Just because of the proceedings.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm on the Brady list this entire time, which is a black mark on your record.
Yeah.
No matter how you cut it, even when you're removed, it still shows that you were on a Brady list for a period of time. So if you're ever deposed later on, an attorney can ask you if you've ever been on the Brady list, and you have to answer yes.
Right.
Well, they can use that against you in court to impeach you.
Yeah.
After over a year of sitting on it, the SAO finally clears it out, the investigating, citing no criminal conduct on my part. And after hearing that decision, Ms. Fair and her attorney again start jumping up and down, and they demand a face-to-face meeting with the state attorney. So that wasn't good enough for them, the closeout. They went in and berated, from what my understanding, the state attorney for a good 30 minutes, after which he closed it out again and said, there is no misconduct, we're moving on.
Yeah.
Then the Criminal Justice Standards and Training Commission closes out their review, saying that no further action outside of the suspension that had already served would be taken, that was done.
Yeah.
So I'm free and clear.
You took your medicine, done deal.
Everything's good to go.
Yeah.
And on March 6, 2024, the federal lawsuit that was filed in connection where they were seeking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars apiece because I violated their civil rights by running them one time, caused them such emotional distress that they needed to be compensated. Well, they settled for $25,000, and they
That
went
they
away.
had to share.
They had to share. They had to cut it. They had to cut it 4 or 5 ways.
And this was how many people total?
It was a nuisance settlement. So all in all, I think there were 4 people total, and then the attorney.
Okay. And upon looking into it, they had you running these 4 people?
Yeah. So what happened was during the investigation, their attorney was going out and soliciting complainants. So anybody that I had contact with, and he basically put it out there to the general public. Anybody that had contact with me, contact him.
Okay.
And he was trying to find additional people
Right.
that I had possibly run. So they found one additional person that was related to the swim show. It was a boyfriend of one of the people that swam in the show. And what happened is his car was parked out in front of our house one night when I came home, and I ran the tag number.
Okay.
Again, because of the death threats and stuff that my wife was receiving. His name popped up. And again, when you run the tag, everything's, as you know, it's connected.
Yeah.
So you get one hit for the tag, and then it pops up the owner, driver's information. Everything is one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was nothing there.
And this was parked in front of your house or in front of
this
the
is
other?
this is part in front of our house.
Okay.
And
And what turned out with that?
My wife was having a meeting with the girlfriend.
Okay.
My wife was, because they were still on talking terms.
Okay.
All right. So there was nothing nefarious there.
Right.
But anyway, he wound up joining the lawsuit. Also, he wound up he wasn't able to collect any of that money because shortly after the lawsuit was filed, he wound up ODing, and that was the end of him.
Ah.
So that closes out pretty much all of that with Whitney Fair. Again, for the span of, this started in 2020. It went to 2024. So for 4 years, my wife and I were dealing with this issue, this harassment, the disparagement, the news media articles, the sneers from our peers and the people that I work with and everything like that, the disparagement of our names professionally, personally. It took a toll, man.
Yeah.
It took a toll. I was hospitalized 3 times. I had 2 major abdominal surgeries, and it was all stress induced.
Okay. Talk about during the IA, during this whole investigation, what was it like inside the department? What was your relationship like with your peers, your subordinates, your supervisors? What was that like?
Everything was fine. Everything was cordial. In fact, again, they initially, again, I was running high liability stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't suspend me. They didn't place me on administrative leave. They left me. I was doing my job. They left me in the position that I was doing. Nobody blinked an eye. They trusted me. They knew in their soul that this was a nothing burger.
Yeah.
They knew it. They again, that's apart from IA.
Right.
But the general, working, everything was fine. The only pushback that I got, and the only thing that started to become a problem was when the articles started to be published. When the New Time articles and the Post and all the other stuff started, Sun Sentinel and everything. Then I started getting the sideways looks. That didn't happen initially. Initially it was just the complaints and the initial IA, and then when it started dragging on to push IA along and to push the agency into reprimanding me, or he wanted me terminated is what he wanted. He leaked it to the press and started running around doing campaigns, giving pressers with these different journalists, and rendering me as a corrupt cop.
Got it.
So that was difficult. That was really, really difficult, to the point where when that came out, I had to pull my entire team in, all my people in, as I would assume any decent boss or manager would do, and say, guys, look, this is coming out. I want you to hear it from me directly. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. I'm at the lowest point probably in my entire career, mentally and physically. But I wanted you to hear it from me first. These are the facts. This is what I did right. This is what I did wrong. Bear with me. Bear with the process. Trust the process, and let's move on from there. I did that, and I didn't have any problems.
I bet they respected you for that too.
They did.
Because look, this job, I'm very big on owning our mistakes. We are human beings. We're fallible. We're gonna screw shit up all the time. And there's not, especially from a supervisor standpoint, people are going to make mistakes. It's part of the business, okay? But it's, can you take ownership? Can you lay out, hey, yeah, you know what, I could have done this better. I think that really speaks to your character, and I'm sure your guys appreciated it. They appreciated it, hearing it from you.
I appreciate that, and that's one thing I've always tried to do. Is I've always tried to be that type of leader. That again, there's good and bad with everybody, and you got to admit your faults. You have to be humble,
Of course.
and if you're not, your people aren't going to trust you. They're not going to believe in you. And that was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my entire life, not only including my career, was to sit down and to try and keep from crying as a grown man in front of my guys, because I was that embarrassed by the ridiculousness that was put out there. And again, I had not still to that point been able to defend myself. I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell my side of the story. I couldn't tell them that, guys, listen, we've done nothing to this woman. It's all make-believe. It's all fantasy. She's trying to concoct this story to turn everything against me to get me fired. She's told, and we don't have it in writing, but we've been told by friends of friends that are close and how people talk, that her entire agenda was to ruin us.
So I'm aware of, you outlined the drama between her and your wife. What was it against you specifically?
I was the big fish.
Understood. Yeah.
And end of story. I was the big fish.
Okay.
I was the breadwinner. I was the cop. She knew that she could pull this shit with my agency.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't get away with it with on the fire side.
So just by your association with your wife's drama with this woman, the words that you shared, the, going, taping up the camera, all that stuff, that was, you were basically a passenger along for the ride for most of this.
Pretty much. And again, even going back and looking at some of the stuff that my wife posted and stuff like that, she never used names.
Okay.
She referred to Whitney as Crazy Eyes. Okay. And the only person that knew that she referred to her that was Whitney and that inner circle.
Okay.
But the general public didn't know that. We never used her name. Even when I did that one post, that one rebuttal, defending her early on, where I said that, we were all friends. We never used that against her, the fact that she was a felon against her, this, that, and the other, and she was white trash. I never used her last name. I never called her out on social media. There's no evidence of any of that. She's been bullying me and harassing me. And every time my wife would post she'd post a Yoda meme with some caption about it or something like that, or come for me or something along those lines. She wouldn't mention any of them, but they would automatically assume that she was talking about them.
Yeah.
It was stupid. She went after me to hurt my wife because she knew that my wife loves me and that would destroy her.
Yeah.
Which it did. The toll that it took on us, I'm telling you, like I told you, hospitalized and everything else, and it killed my career. 110% it killed my career. Even though they didn't remove me, they left me in the position that I was in. I was in an acting captain's position. I was up for promotion to captain. Even a year and a half after the fact, I approached them again, and they said, no, the optics wouldn't look good.
No.
So I was done. She made my life a living hell. She killed any chance of promotion.
She did what she set out to do.
Yep. And ultimately, at the end of everything, she forced me into retirement. So now we'll move on to, I guess, the main theme of everything, this HBO Max documentary BS.
Yeah, when as I sat there and I watched it a couple times just to kind of freshen up for this interview, and before talking to you, I'm just like, what was this guy thinking?
Yeah.
Like, why would you ever subject yourself to something like that? Because look, man, the media, we cannot rely on the media to give cops a fair shake. Mm-hmm. I mean, what else do we need to see to know? And I mean, they're HBO. those are interchangeable for me, like entertainment, the media, Hollywood. That's all. It's it's the same monster as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But we know that people are out to drag us. That people are not very friendly to cops these days, and so when I'm watching that, I'm like, how did he get suckered into this?
We were stupid.
Got it. Well,
We were trusting,
yeah.
and we were desperate. We were desperate to tell some type of a story, even though it wasn't going to be about the initial incident because a lawsuit had still not been closed yet.
Right.
Okay, we weren't going to talk about that. We wanted to get out. My wife wanted to get out on a positive note, some positive PR, some positive something. She's writing a book. She's doing different things. Everything had been negative up to that point, right? So this opportunity came along, and again, you saw they're good.
Yeah.
They were
Talk
really good.
about that. Talk about how this whole thing unfolded with the opportunity. Like, how was it presented? Who contacted you? Like, tell me about that.
So up to this point, again, we're on a low. We're down here. We're defending ourselves. We're basically screaming into a wall because nobody can hear us, right? And we were desperate. We were desperate to not be viewed as despicable people.
Right.
All right, that's as honest as I can be. So my wife is, again, on top of everything else she does, makeup, artistry, she paints, she does all kinds of stuff. She's just social media influencer, creator. She does all kinds of different stuff. She talks a little bit about spirituality, about witchcraft, and about the pagan religion and things of that nature. And believe it or not, that's big on the internet.
I can imagine there's all sorts of subcultures. And
Yep.
before we get started on this,
Yep.
I want to let you know the power of Christ compels you.
That the power of Christ compels you.
I do not condone any type of witchcraft whatsoever. I do not allow that in my house. And, maybe I'll have my pastor come and bless my house just in case you got some hitchhikers along for the ride. I'm joking. I'm busting your balls. But I
But that's
believe
the thing. Most people don't understand even what it really is,
Well-
and it's not what the movies make it out.
No,
to be.
I get it.
And again, if you look at like paganism in general, and I know 1/10 of what my wife knows.
Right.
My wife can recite it chapter to verse because she's that intellectually into it.
Right.
And basically, paganism is just basically what Christianity was founded on.
Yeah, and I understand. So the ancient Greeks were pagans. Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, and you could argue that these were the founding fathers of logic and reason. So I do not discount their contributions.
Yeah.
I understand that. Look, my spirituality is a long and complex journey. Today I identify as a follower of Christ, working on calling myself a Christian, but I'm on that kind of pathway. But I recognize that paganism and our Constitution has pagan roots, if you really want to trace it back.
Yeah.
So I get there's a whole lot of nuance.
And there's different subcultures to all of that. You know,
Yeah.
there's the ones that take it to one extreme, and there's the others that take it to another, and then there's just the middle of the road. The middle of the road people are the ones that believe in the 5 elements.
Yeah.
And how to live off the land and how to cure yourself medicinal with different potions and lotions and things like that without popping pills and things like
Right.
that. So there's a whole
And above all
slew
else,
of things to it.
I am a constitutional absolutist.
Yeah.
I think everybody has the right to practice whatever religion they want, to say whatever they want. So I don't look at it as something as alarming as maybe a fundamentalist Christian would look at it as. But when you talk about these words, witchcraft, hexes, curses, you understand that they're going to conjure up all sorts of nightmare visions for the onlookers, right?
Sure.
Like you get
Sure.
that, right?
No, of course.
Okay, just
Of course.
based on popular mainstream narrative.
And that's also going to conjure up clicks
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and followers and followings and stuff like that. So
Okay.
again, I can't speak coherently or logically on that type of stuff because I don't participate in it.
Right.
And that kind of stuff, whatever my wife does, she does on her own. I don't even see it. So, what she's talking about in what happened here was basically the middle of the road person who calls themselves a pagan. I'm not a pagan.
Okay.
I was raised Lutheran.
Okay.
I got to be honest with you, because of my job and the stuff that I've seen and the stuff that I've done, I don't believe in much.
I get that.
I honestly don't. And I fight that every day because
Yeah.
I want to believe in something bigger. But I've been changed so much mentally, physically, and everything else over the years of doing and seeing what we've seen.
Yeah.
It's tough, right?
I 100% get it. And I think a lot of us, I think that's going to resonate with a lot to see the type of shit that we see.
Yeah. What man can do to a fellow man.
Yeah.
Is tough, and I still to this day, you know, we all that have done it for a period of time, we all suffer from some type of PTSD. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it.
Yeah.
To what extent, who knows? That's to each, you know, and everybody individually. But you know, I still wake up at night with visions of things that I've seen. You know, and things that I've had to deal with that nobody else will deal with. Who else are you going to call? Nobody else is going to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's your job, your responsibility. You got to deal with it. And you got to suck it up. You got to compartmentalize it. You got to put it away, and you got to move on.
Yep. Especially if you're in a leadership position.
Yep.
Everybody's counting on you
Yep.
to keep your shit together.
Yep.
And yeah, I get it. I
Yep.
get it.
You cry afterwards.
Yeah.
In the privacy of your own home. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to do that too much because you then it weakens you to the point where you can't do your job.
Right.
So what do you wind up doing? You wind up bottling it up, and you wind up being an alcoholic. Some people turn to drugs. Some people, there's a lot of different avenues that we can go down. But it's sad for me to say that. But honestly, what I said and the things that I said in that documentary, that was in support of my wife.
Right. Well, talk about how you were contacted. And
So all this is over. We're breathing a sigh of relief. We finally have some peace and tranquility in our house after being bashed over the skull for 4 years.
Yeah.
This company called Range Media reaches out to my wife via text and basically says, I'll read it to you. This is the initial text that she got. Hey, my name is Clark Filio. I'm an artist and producer. I'm currently working with a new team on an upcoming documentary for Max. It's being produced by Mark Herwick from Range Media. We are in the early stages of research trying to figure out the scope of the project, and we are exploring the ideas of doing a showcase about modern-day witches. We are interested in connecting with people who can speak candidly about the lifestyle. What does it mean to be a witch? Is the magic real? What does it take to become a witch? What are the challenges? We are not out to prove or disprove anything. Let me know what you think. The next step would be to schedule a quick Zoom call, no longer than 10 to 15 minutes. That will be something that I can record and use internally with the rest of the team so everybody can get a sense of who you are. We're aiming to start shooting in October. It's an interview format, so we would most likely shoot everything in one go, probably just a few hours. Let me know what you think and if you have any questions. Based upon what I just read to you, does that have anything to do with the prior BS that we have been dealing with?
No. No,
Can you even remotely read into that?
No.
Okay. All right. So
and I can also understand because of what you guys have been through, your wife and you. You know, you said you're at your low as a family, and an opportunity like this comes knocking on your door. Oh, here's a chance to get out in the mainstream and
show myself in a positive light.
Show myself, well, witchcraft, paganism. I mean, to at least tell people, hey, I'm not, you know, I'm a human being. I'm, you know, this is what I'm into. Maybe some people find it weird. It's an opportunity to kind of just put yourself out there and be human.
Yeah.
And have, I'm presuming she thought this was going to be some type of puff piece.
Well, the way they pitched it, and I was there on the phone when they had their teleconferences and stuff like that, and I was listening because again, we're very suspicious of anything at this point, right? Because we've just been through hell and back. The way they pitched it wasn't just going to be her. They were looking for multiple people to get together, and one would say their take on this. One would say their take on that, but it was all going to be around spirituality.
Right.
So one would be this, one would be Christianity, one would be something else. It was never definitively decided on, but that's the way that they said it was going to go. And to do our due diligence, we checked out this company. They checked out. We checked out the people that were named in the text. They checked out. No red flags there. My wife contacted several other social media creators that do this same similar kind of stuff, and they had been contacted also. So it all sounded legit. It was all good. So we sat down, we talked about it, and she's like, listen, what do you think? And I'm like, listen, if you want to do it, I don't have a problem with it. I've always been supportive of you. Just let's be very conscientious of where they may be coming from. Because again, we still have a little voice in the back of our heads. We're not stupid.
Yeah.
Right? If
Yeah,
if they bring up at any point any of this other bullshit that we've already gone through, it's shut down automatically. And we knew that 110%. Even the day that they came out and did the shoot, we met for coffee. We had coffee in the morning before they even got there and said, listen, if they breach it at all, if they broach the subject at all, shut it down. We throw them out. So we agreed to do it. They show up at our house October, 3 trucks full of guys, all the equipment that you have here plus times 10.
Yeah.
I mean, they're professionals. They came in. They asked if they could rearrange the house downstairs to set up the lighting. They did everything. Wow, everything was perfect. They asked me if I wanted to participate, and at first I said no. This is my wife's gig. Let her do it. So I sat in the office. I held the dogs, and I listened to her, them ask her questions. And they asked her. They didn't ask her a lot of like crazy, questions about, anything to do with sacrifices or anything like that, which for the record, we don't do. We've never had. She never has.
That was going to be a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Most importantly, do you in fact own any leather assless chaps with your BSO badge affixed to the front?
No, but now that I'm retired, I might get a set.
Hey, and good for you. That's your God-given right as an American as far as I'm concerned. But, we watch these reenactments, and they painted it. It was so wacky and crazy. So you guys are practicing pagans, or your wife maybe a little bit more than you. She's into that type of stuff. And more important, I'm kind of presuming that, yes, she's interested in that. Is it more of like a character, like a LARP on social media?
Yes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Like this is just, people are into it. She's
Yes.
capitalizing on it.
Yes.
This is, okay.
Now to be fair, is it part of her belief system? She was raised Roman Catholic.
Right.
Okay, so she has that in her background too.
Yeah.
Is it part of her belief system? Does she believe in a lot of the stuff that? Of course she does.
Yeah.
But the majority of it is for views.
Right. And
Okay.
and I can see a theatrical element to that too, where you want to play on people's kind of suspicions about it. You want to play up the kind of creepy elements of it a little bit.
Yeah.
We saw the coffin.
That's what I was going to say. It's the house. It's like we have a very I don't even know how you describe it, but certain areas of the house, it's like a haunted mansion type of theme.
We all have our things that we're interested in. Some people are into sports. If somebody went into my office and they saw how many guitars I had or how many shitbox Chevrolets I had, we all have our little thing. So the paganism, the social media page, that's your wife's thing. And you tag along for the ride. People will look at it a certain way, but that's just kind of what you guys are into.
That's it. I support her. I find certain aspects of it fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been enlightening to me, to be honest with you. In fact, like I said, I give props to her because she can sit down and she can have a in-depth conversation with any knowledgeable theologian to the degree that they'll probably walk away crying. I mean, she's that bright and I'm not talking about just paganism. I'm talking about just religion in general,
right?
Islam and Hinduism, and she's.
How did she get into that?
She's just. I honestly, I think she's half a genius, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I just really do. She's just one of those that when she sets her mind on something and it intrigues her, she just goes all out.
Yeah.
And I've caught her a couple times, and I've been like, I think you're full of shit on that one. And I've gone and actually researched, and no, she's been right on the money.
Got it.
So it's not like she's just talking to talk. No, she knows her stuff.
So this stuff in the documentary, the naked rituals, I don't know if they edited it to what you guys are saying. Yeah, we do naked rituals, or that's how we get them to work, or something like. I can't remember the specifics. But
I forget what was actually said too. But yeah, we were being playful.
Okay.
And we were kind of playing along. They were trying to, they were asking numerous questions. I think they were probably off camera. Oh, we want to know about the naked stuff. We want to know about the naked stuff.
So they probed you to kind of set you up.
And we're like, dude, there is no naked stuff. We don't do naked rituals in our backyard.
Right.
We've never sacrificed an animal. Again, like we've talked about, I don't hunt.
Yeah.
I've never killed an animal. The closest I've come to killing an animal is fishing. And that's not to say that hunting is bad. It's just not my thing.
Right.
Okay. So that's all bullshit.
So no sacrificing chickens to Moloch.
It's all made up.
Got it.
Everything to do with that is made up. That was a lie and a complete distortion from start to finish. And anybody, when you really look at it from the context and how they interviewed us on the couch, and the limited tour of the house or whatever it was, not once did they ever ask us about Miss Fair. Not once did they ever ask us about sacrifices in the backyard.
Yeah.
Not once did they ever ask us to show them the pit where we burn the books or whatever. It never came up because it never happened.
Yeah, because I noticed they conveniently have videos of you calling her all sorts of names, knocking down the no trespassing sign. They have all those videos, but then the big selling point of the show, the naked rituals and the witchcraft and all that, she didn't have any videos of that.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want to see that.
Yeah,
So.
which she conveniently would hide her face and with the curtains and everything else, and it made her so upset that she had to take a break during it and with the fake cry and everything. She had a camera up the entire time she was videotaping our backyard.
Yeah.
If that happened, there would have been video footage, and that would have been the first thing that was said. And not only that, to back up to all the previous stuff that we've gone over, every police report, every IA, that would have been, she would have led with that. Would she have not? It's common sense.
Yeah.
She would have led with that.
I've gotten the witchcraft calls. I've gotten, especially with the Haitian community.
Yeah.
We get reports of people putting voodoo on somebody else. And
if any of that were true, that would have come out years prior.
Right.
Not 5 years after the fact that all of a sudden that this is what it was all. It's all a lie. It was made to make us look like fools.
Got it.
It was made to ruin us, our reputations, both professionally and privately. And it was purposely done.
So HBO, reach out to your wife. You guys have a conversation. You're like, well, what's the harm? If anything fishy comes up, we're gonna.
So they come to the house. They interview her. I think they did like an hour and a half interview with her with the lights and everything like that. I'm listening the entire time to everything's being asked. Not one thing that one time did they ever touch on any of the other stuff.
Right.
Not once. So then my wife finishes up and she comes to me and she says, listen, they're really, kind of want to get your take on it as my husband, do you want to do it? And I'm like, you know what? I'll do it for you. No problem. Mm-hmm. At that point, I didn't see anything. And again, when you see what they asked me and how I answered it and things like that, nothing came up. Job related. I never identified myself as a sheriff's deputy for Broward County. I never identified my rank. I never said anything along those lines.
But you did say you worked in law enforcement.
I said I've been, in my career in law enforcement for 30 years.
Right.
They were asking some question about white supremacy or some bullshit like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. When I think back on it now, and I there were some keys in there that I probably could have clued in on. Right. But they were asking me, and it was off camera. Again, I don't know what was on camera and what wasn't, because again, me taking my shirt off was supposed to be off camera and turned out to be on camera. But no, they asked.
Yeah. So
they were really into So tell us, is there a lot of white supremacists still around? Do you deal with them a lot? Do you because they saw my "We the People" tattoo. And
that's a white supremacist dog whistle, apparently?
To some people it is, apparently. You and I both know it's not.
Beginning of the Constitution.
You and I both know it's not. It's for love of country.
Yeah.
And it's what we stand for. It's a binding principle for what we stand for. But yeah, some people say it's a dog whistle for white supremacists. And they were asking me, they asked me that for a good couple of minutes, and I'm surprised it didn't make, I know why it didn't make the thing, because I turned them down and said, listen, I've never met a white supremacist. To be perfectly honest with you, I said, I think I saw one time. There was a guy that lived in Davie off of Griffin Road between Davie and Weston, and he used to fly a Confederate flag in his front yard. That's the closest I've ever come to a white supremacist. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe in prison. I've never been to prison, so I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall on the show any.
They didn't because that didn't go to their narrative.
Okay. Yeah, so they were kind of probing you to paint you as a white supremacist, it seems like. Because it seems like these days, if you're to the right of Hillary Clinton on any political issues, then you're an extremist.
If you like Sydney Sweeney and the jeans ad, you're a white supremacist. You're a Nazi.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Her attorney in the show called me a Nazi. Said that what I said that during my IA statement, I made a statement about being a cop 24/7 and everything's criminal unless it's not or whatever like that. He goes, "What is this? What are we? The Gestapo? You can't make this stuff up."
Right.
But yes, to get back on track, I finally agreed. I did sign a document, which is basically just a basic photo release that they can, use your image or whatever like that.
So when your wife says, "Hey, would you, give me some backup in there, just kind of support me," things like that, they start probing you about law enforcement. You volunteer information, with I have the sheepdog on me, and you volunteer the law enforcement aspect of it, presumably, or did they already know for some reason? Did your wife bring it up, or?
I'm certain that they knew because they had done their background on us.
Right.
And I'm sure that they knew about, we weren't stupid. We're sure that they knew about all the other stuff before. But again, that wasn't the premise that we thought that they were going after.
Yeah.
And they never talked about even remotely going down that avenue. And they never questioned us about it.
So they were friendly. It was playful. It was
no problems at all.
Yeah.
When the law enforcement thing came up and I said I'd been in law enforcement for 30 years, that was supposed to be, I believe it was off camera because I was in the middle of changing my shirt at the time. It was before I was going, either before or after I was going on camera because I remember I was wearing a T-shirt and I actually think I changed into this actual shirt. And the guy saw my tattoos, who was tattooed, and he said, "Hey, man, those are beautiful tattoos. What are they?" And I started pointing them out. Well, this is this.
They were rolling the whole time.
They were rolling the whole time, unbeknownst to me.
Yeah.
And again, I didn't authorize that. I didn't ask for that.
Right.
Right. And the entire time they're probing too. Oh yeah, but there's got to be some naked stuff, right? There's got to be some salacious naked stuff involved. You guys, no, there isn't.
Yeah.
I said something about the fact of, it's not like we sacrifice chickens or something like that. And my wife was like, well, but what she was getting at when she kind of made that little thing, and I've only seen it once, to be honest with you, so I'm just going from memory.
I wouldn't watch it again either if I were you.
No. And when she did that, she was basically trying to say, listen, even though we don't do it, I'm not poo-pooing on anybody that may do it. Because again, it's a religious belief. Right. So she's not trying not to offend anybody. But there was no talk of any of that. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And again, it was all made up, 110%.
Okay, so you guys shoot that, put it behind you. They're telling you it's going to be one thing. You guys are maybe even a bit excited about it.
That's in October 2023.
Okay.
So about a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, don't quote me on the time frame, they hit my wife back up and say, listen, can you meet us out at this park? We're still in town. We want to do some B-roll. Based upon the meetings and everything that we had thus far, we didn't have any issues with that. So she went out there by herself. She thought they were just going to take some B-roll of her, like, strolling through the park or sitting on a bench or, the usual B-roll stuff. At that point is when they hit her with a couple of questions pertaining to the mermaid drama and bullshit. And I think she made a couple of statements to the effect that, she regretted a couple of her actions and she wished she could do a couple things over again. But she basically shut them down because she knew she couldn't talk about it because the lawsuit was still going.
Right.
And that was the end of that. When she came back and told me that, I said, oh, yeah, there's going to be a problem here. They're going down a different road. Couldn't do anything about it at that point. She tried to reach out to these people that were leading the thing for Range Media multiple times. They ignored her. And when they finally did get back to her months later, they said, oh, yeah, well, it's going to, it's done. You're going to feel a little weird when you see it. But we think it's a good final product. Now, mind you, they had told her in the discussions that I was privy to that she would get to see it prior to it being aired, and she would have a little bit of say-so on certain things.
Editorial discretion.
Not the final say, right? Because that's within their rights, to do that. But at least be included in the discussion.
Right.
We had no idea what was coming. The episode airs November 1st, 2024. My wife still to this day hasn't watched the entire episode. She's disgusted by it, but she's heard through the grapevine of what has been portrayed, and she's seen screenshots of stuff, and I've told her what I saw the one time that I watched it, and I was absolutely disgusted. So that was, I think, on either a Friday or a Saturday. Monday morning at 8 a.m., I'm called into IA and placed on administrative leave.
Before we get there, I want to kind of back up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're watching, you have no idea what to expect.
Nope.
Your spider senses are tingling a little bit at this point because of the new questions that they started probing about the so you're feeling like, this might be...
there might be something more to this.
Yeah, this something's not right. You watch it. You're by yourself when you watch it. You didn't watch it with her. What were your thoughts when you saw the final product?
I was disgusted. I was having an old fashioned at the time, sitting petting the dogs, and I threw my glass up against the wall.
Oh.
I was distraught. I was absolutely distraught. I was like, this is the final nail in the coffin for us as a family. I wasn't even thinking work-wise.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, work never even entered into the equation. I was just like, we just got done with all the articles and all the other stuff, and now they're going to do this, and this is national. And now I'm like, my cousins, my relatives that live in other cities, but my sons that live in another state, they're all going to see this, and they're going to think the way that they spliced it together, that we actively participated in this without knowing the backstory.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw up.
Don't blame you
I
one bit.
wanted to throw up. I could not believe that somebody could be that conniving, that vile, and that evil. Because that wasn't even... I mean, you can have some creative leeway, right? Certain angles here and there. But to take what we said in our interview and to splice it into what the final thing was, with us doing those things and acting like that, it's slanderous. It's defamatory. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words.
It's dirty. It's
low down dirty. The only thing that would probably be worse is if they depicted me sexually assaulting a child. If they did this, what's to prohibit them from doing something like that?
Yeah.
I thought there were ethical standards. I thought that there were some type of standards, media related, that would have to be like, for if you're gonna believe her story and go on, like, this is what Whitney Fair is portraying to us, and she's got no evidence, mind you, to put in front of them to corroborate any of this. See? Yeah. Somebody's listening, and they're agreeing with me. Wouldn't you think that they would have some ethical obligation to go in a different avenue or not do that? How can you defame somebody like that?
Something that I saw that was very telling is at the beginning of the show, there's a little voiceover narration that kind of sets up the premise. He goes, yada, yada, it's about this and this and that, but it's all true. Sort of. Which is a pretty big caveat when in retrospect. That sort of is carrying a lot of heavy weight. So I guess that's their kind of way to slither out of any liability, substantial liability.
I think that's you hit the nail on the head. That's what they tried to do with that. I'm hoping that's a good omen.
Me too.
Yeah, I think that's what they were. That maybe they think they sheltered themselves by saying that. But I'm still seeking legal recourse. I believe that we should be able to go after them for what they did to us.
Right.
And unfortunately, I haven't found the right attorney yet to take on the case. And the attorneys that I have found that would even consider it, they want, a $20,000-$30,000 retainer up front and then $400 or $500 an hour. I deplete my entire retirement just trying to do that. So we're kind of stuck now.
What was the conversation with your wife like after, like, what was the fallout inside of the family? Like, how do you even start that conversation after you guys, because she saw some of it, I'm guessing, and then stopped watching?
She wasn't even home. She was at work. She was on duty.
Okay.
She was on shift. If I remember correctly, yeah, when it aired. And I got to be honest, it's a blur. I really honestly don't remember what was said or how it was said. We both just held each other. We cried, and we were just like defeated. We're like, how many more times can we get kicked in the you-know-whats?
Yeah.
You know, we're good people. We really are. We're good people. We're not bad people. We've devoted, between her and I, we've devoted 35, 45, almost 50 years of our lives to public service.
Yeah.
How could somebody do this to us? And it ultimately over a mermaid show.
I don't mean to laugh, but
No,
that's what makes it so absurd. It's
5 years of our lives have been ruined. I mean, my career ruined.
Yeah.
Her reputation, all of our over a mermaid show.
Yeah. It's
I don't know how it got to that point. Never in a million years would I have believed that it could have gotten to this point. And you know, the big thing about it is it could have been stopped early on had my agency stood up for me.
okay.
And that's just my, I'll take that to the grave, because I told them when the initial bullshit started, if you guys don't stand up for me, you don't put a stop to this, it's going to continue. It's going to spiral. It's going to get out of control, because they're not going to stop. I'm telling you, the people that you're dealing with, they're not going to stop. You can talk to the IA captain. You can talk to the colonels. You can talk to everybody that I spoke to, that I was, warning all of them. This isn't going to stop, guys. And it would have been very simple for them to, well, we don't do that. We let, we just stay quiet. We let the investigation speak for itself. No, you don't. You speak up when you want to speak up.
Yeah.
It just depends on the person and the circumstance. They could have very easily stood up and said, listen, these are outlandish allegations that we have found to be completely, untruthful. Jeff Mellies is an outstanding employee, who's been with us for 25 years, dedicated, 35 years of his life to law enforcement. If he made a mistake in regards to the David stuff and things like that, it was a mistake. He's dealt with it. We've dealt with it. We're moving on. He's a good guy. They could have promoted me, which would have been, the ultimate backing.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They ran. They threw me under the bus and they ran.
If you were in a command position and this kind of came across your desk and you were in a position of influence to do something about it, would you have handled it any differently? Like what?
My first reaction, we can both agree, there's plenty of shitbags out there wearing badges.
Of course.
Okay.
100%.
Are they corrupt? I can probably count on one hand after 35 years of maybe 5 individuals that were truly corrupt.
Right.
That I saw steal, that I saw do really corrupt shit. And they ultimately got theirs. They got arrested. They got disbarred. They got, their certs pulled. They're no longer cops.
They get what was coming to them.
They got it. But the majority of the stuff that we deal with are good people with good intentions making mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what corrective discipline is for.
Of course.
That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to build on it. You're supposed to take the character of the person, look at his record. Right? We've got people still employed with us today that were, leaving their assigned zones and cities, going out of the county, having sex on duty. They're still employed.
Yeah. But they didn't have an HBO show made on them. So.
Would I have handled it differently? Yes, I think it could have been handled substantially different, and that's what I get to. You got to look at the individual and you say to yourself, listen, Jeff is not a stupid person.
Yeah.
Look at what he's done for us. Look at the stuff that he's put together. Look at the reports that he writes. Multiple surgeries. I have an NG tube going down into my belly, okay? And I'm basically fighting to regain my health. I had a very, very serious abdominal issue that I was dealing with. My boss walks in. What does he catch me doing? I'm on the computer approving use of force reports because I don't want my guys to get behind.
Yeah.
That's the type of guy that I was. That's the type of leader that I was. That's the type of person that I am. I would have taken that all into account. I would have called, if I had been the bosses, first thing Monday morning, I want you in my office at 8 a.m. Explain this. At that point, there's no IA open. There's no Garrity. Nothing applies. You're having a conversation because, again, that's a First Amendment issue that you're dealing with now, because I'm talking about a religion aspect in the privacy of my own living room.
Yeah.
I never depicted myself as a cop. Had they taken that chance to sit me down, I was sat down with the sheriff himself and told him, listen, man, I'm disgusted, as I know you are. I'm ashamed. If I could take it back, I would. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that this was going to go in this direction. I would have never look at me and the person that I am and have been.
Yeah.
Do you think I would do that? And if you do, here's my resignation today. But that wouldn't have been the case. If they had gone that route, I could have explained it, and they probably would have been like, hey, you know what? I get it. And they got it in the end. They got it. They're not stupid. They know exactly what happened.
From their perspective, the damage was
insurmountable.
insurmountable.
The damage was done. The optics were done, and they'd had enough.
Yeah, that's a common theme that you hear about the gripes in law enforcement, is about just the lack of fairness and the double standards that we deal with. And a lot of times it's never about the actual incident, it's about the optics of it, and they did a number on you, man. Like, just to tell that story the way they did, that's hard to come back from. And even as a sheriff, I could see that, man, but you need to care for your people. You need to.
But on top of that, the saving grace to all that was all my guys reached out to me, and even the people that know me reached out to me, and they said, Jeff, anybody that has any common sense can see right through that. That was a setup job from start to finish.
Yeah.
Everybody saw that.
Yeah.
And they knew. But we did the thing. They did the investigation. My wife went in and gave a voluntary statement. She owned everything. She said, hey, I set all this up. This was the whole thing. And they came back and hit me with 3 additional new charges.
And I think I remember you saying it's because you were planning on fighting the charges that they did have.
This was every step along the way. They had 3 witnesses to interview. It was me, my wife came in, and then they interviewed our head PIO, because their whole premise was I should have asked permission to do any type of an interview.
Yeah.
And I said, that doesn't, the policy doesn't really apply to that. That applies to BSO matters, like if you're on a crime scene or you're in the, you're investigating a shooting or something like that. You have to check with PIO and get their approval before you talk to the media.
Yeah.
I'm a private citizen. I can talk to whoever I want to talk to.
Especially if you're not identifying where you work.
Yeah. So, again, my union rep, everybody, we went in and I gave my guarantee. I fell on the sword. I said, listen, I'm disgusted. I'm ashamed. I fell on the sword. I'm like, listen, I understand the agency's perception to a degree, but this is what truly happened. Here are the facts. Here's the proof. Here's this. Here's that. My wife didn't have to give a statement. How many wives come in and give a statement voluntarily?
I can't think of any. Yeah.
Okay, and that wasn't just willy-nilly. We thought that over, and we went through our attorney, we went through the union rep, and we wanted the truth to be out there. And they were having nothing of it. We pointed out charges that they were charging me with that weren't in place, they weren't applicable at the time, so they would remove that and add another one. It was obvious what they were doing. They were coming for me.
Yeah.
They were given their marching orders. So the people that were on the board that heard the case and had to render their decision, they, in my belief, like I can't prove this, but I believe this in my heart, they had already been given their marching orders that sustain and terminate.
No matter what.
No matter what. Sustain and terminate.
Wow.
They couldn't even do that.
So
2 out of the 4 charges were dismissed. 2 were sustained. They were very minor infractions. And they recommended a 15-day discipline, which is like giving somebody a 5-year prison sentence for stealing a candy bar.
Just so I understand correctly, they tried to sustain, what was it, 3 initially?
When they initially called me in and put me on a paid administrative leave, they hit me with conduct on becoming an employee, breach of confidence, and social media networking policy. Then after my wife gives a statement, they added 2 additional, so there were 3. They hit me with conduct on becoming social media networking policy, conflicts of interest, off-duty and extra-duty employment, and public information. Then when we told them that they couldn't hit me with conduct on becoming because they were trying to use all the video footage that had already been investigated with us screaming at her on the driveway.
Jeopardy.
Double jeopardy. So they took that out, but they added discretion. So the final 4 charges went in with social media networking policy, off-duty, extra-duty employment, public information, and discretion. Social media networking policy was not sustained. Discretion was sustained. Off-duty and ex-duty employment was sustained because my wife accepted a $500 check for participating in the interview. They used that against me. And public information was not sustained. So they sustained 2 out of the 4. Ultimately, the Professional Standards Committee meets, which is a combination of Department of Law Enforcement personnel, Department of Detention, and civilians. And they listen to the spiel from your representative, and they make their determination. They're supposed to have read the entire case file prior to viewing that, but we know that very rarely ever happens, just for the sheer volume of cases that come through.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anybody ever really read my statement or not, which was very conciliatory. They recommended a 15-day suspension without pay. I was set up for a pre-disciplinary hearing. The way our agency works is after that they recommend the discipline, then you're able to go into a hearing in front of the professional standards director, the IA captain, the IA investigator is usually there, and you're able to dispute or talk about this. Sometimes you can mitigate it, sometimes they increase it.
Yeah.
It's a flip of the coin. Subsequent to those findings, the Professional Standings Committee recommended a 15-day, 120-hour suspension without pay upon further review by Executive Command, which is one person, Colonel John Hale, and maybe his Vice Admiral, Scott Champagne. The recommended disposition and discipline is as follows. Sustain all allegations, recommended discipline termination. So even though the board heard the case, and the board threw out 50% of the charges against me and recommended a ridiculous 15-day suspension, one person came in and overruled everybody, sustained all the charges, and changed the recommendation to termination.
So 30 years of service in one agency.
They gave me the big...
That's unbelievable.
Why even have a professional standards board? Why even have them review? It's a waste of time. And if you have one person that can override everything.
This individual that decided to escalate to like termination, that sounds crazy to me for what we're talking about.
My union rep, and I won't even use his name because he was the president of our Lieutenants Association for IUPA. He was so distraught over this that he actually quit. He quit. He resigned his position, and the lieutenants chapter has subsequently folded, and they're now going through a perk election for somebody else to pick them up. Prior to him going into this, to the professional standards for him presenting the case, he was so confident. We were so confident that everything was going to be dismissed and I would come out of this with, at maximum, a counseling, that we're already popping champagne bottles because we had all the evidence. It was all there.
Yeah.
When he came back to me with the 15-day suspension, his voice was cracking. He was emotional.
Right.
He goes, "I cannot believe that they're doing this to you." And then the next day, he had to call me up again. I'm at the vet with my dogs. And he says, "Yeah, they want to terminate you." And I go, "They want to what?" And my wife's sitting right next to me. She hears us on the phone. She starts fucking crying right in the middle of the vet's office. They want to terminate me. A 30-year employee, or 25-year employee with the agency with a stellar record over an obvious hit job. You want to terminate me? Again, you've got people running around out there that have actually committed criminal acts that are still employed by the agency. You want to terminate me for this?
And that was all under the direction of one individual that was on top of this whole thing?
That is my understanding. There is no... Executive command could be anybody.
It's a catch-all for... Okay.
But for it to come back as quickly as it did the very next day, that was one or two people. The sheriff may or may not have been included.
Yeah, that would make a little more sense, but was there any justification for the decision to escalate? Like, was there any requirement on their part to provide some type of rationale for this decision?
That was never revealed to us. Now, I could have gotten maybe that had I decided to go to the pre-disciplinary conference, which I could have very well still done. That was scheduled for May 6th. But I had already made up my mind that I wanted out of that toxic environment. I wanted no part of that agency anymore. I was disgusted. I had already set my retirement date for May 1st. So my whole plan was, you know what? You can't fire a retired employee.
Yeah. Because that just sounds so extreme to me. Like, I could even kind of understand an argument that, yeah, you know what, and I get your side. Because of the fallout, I don't agree with it. I think that the facts should dictate how the case proceeds. Mm-hmm. But I could understand somebody's inclination to say, oh, this caused us such a big headache and so much grief that, you know what, let's really stick it to this guy. Let's give him a month off. Mm-hmm. Something crazy like that. Mm-hmm. But no, to fire a long-standing, high-ranking employee who, from what I understand, you have no other real blemishes on your personnel file.
A couple little things here and there, but nothing substantial.
Did you have friction with any of these people at the top?
Not that I'm aware of. The only thing that I can say for certain is that this same John Hale is the one that signed off and upped my discipline on the first IA case. Okay. It was supposed to be 3 days, and he gave me 5 because I wasn't contrite. So maybe he was
grovel enough.
Maybe he was still upset about that. I can't prove that. That's just my gut feeling.
Right.
But again, I'm in the same boat that you are. How do you get from A to Z with this?
Yeah. How can you justify?
And again, this, even though this made national, right? You had one anonymous complainant, which was one of the stalkers that we've had online that hit the send button the minute the episode aired. Okay, that launched the whole thing. There were no other complaints that were received from BSO on me in reference to the episode. There was one media article written by the Sun Sentinel that I was being put on under investigation because of the episode. One. Meanwhile, the first go around, there were like 12 different articles written. I got 3 days, 5 days total for that one, but you're going to terminate me for this? I couldn't wrap my head around it, but again, at that point, I was done. I was.
So do you think, in the grand scheme, they knew that you could fight that and easily beat it? They wanted to put the pressure on you to just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were showing me the door.
Okay.
So ultimately, what would have happened was, if I had fought it, I am certain that I would have won in arbitration. I'm certain I would have been given my job back. I'm certain I would have been given back pay. But how long does that take?
Of course.
And in the meantime, you're in limbo. You still have all this hanging over your head.
Still got bills to pay.
I'm moving out of the state next year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be around to arbitrate anything.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, at that point, that was just the final. That's it. I'm done. I don't want any part of wearing the badge anymore, especially for that agency. I just don't. And there's a lot of good men and women that work there. A lot of good men and women. But the culture there now, with the massive firings before there's even an internal investigation with the Tamarack stuff and all the other stuff that's been going on there, and we've got a sheriff that stands up there and is proud that he's terminated 144 people since he's taken over as sheriff. I don't think that's anything to be proud of, dude.
So you think politics is a huge issue for that agency right now?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. You watch people that have been lieutenants for 10 minutes. I know your agency didn't have lieutenants, but you've been lieutenants for 10 minutes, and now you're a captain, and a year from there you're a major. Why do you think they're having so many issues? Why do you think so many people are getting in trouble? Why do you think so many people are getting fired? Because they're promoting unqualified people to positions of extreme authority. And the reason for the rank structure, as you well know, is you want to make your mistakes at the lowest point possible.
Of course. Yeah.
For the least amount of damage or impact, right?
Yeah.
Just like in the initial IA, when my esteemed Lieutenant Colonel Chris McCoy stood up and said, we're getting sued anyway. Let's just suspend him and be done with it. Well, that defies logic to me. To me, if you know you're going to get sued, why would you throw your agency under the bus by not giving your employee the benefit of the doubt, especially when there's a benefit of the doubt to be given.
Yeah.
If you're guilty, you're guilty, right?
Right.
If it's black and white, it's black and white. But again, in my first case, there's defense there. It could go either way. All right. And again, you look at the person's history, you look at their credibility, you look at what they've done for the AC. You know
Look
what?
at the body of work.
We're going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt on this one.
Yeah.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
That's progressive discipline.
Yep.
But they do what they want, when they want, how they want to do it. And as you know, that's the problem that we're having with law enforcement nowadays and in society in general, is things that you would never think of doing a decade ago because you knew it would get overturned, right? You knew that it would come back in your face and you knew it wasn't right. Now they just don't care. They're going to make you suffer.
Right.
They're going to make you suffer. We know it's going to get overturned. We know it's going to go to arbitration. We know why do you think the sheriff is so?
How dare you make us work?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why do you think the sheriff is so pissed? And he's like, oh, I fire these people and they come back on arbitration. Well, yeah, because they shouldn't have been fired in the first place.
Right. How do we fix this?
Culture. You start with internal affairs, and I can only speak for my internal affairs division, and I worked in it years ago in the early 2000s. You remember under the exceptional clearance case when they were exceptionally clearing cases and just writing things off, and the crime stats were going through the clearance rate went through the roof under Jenny. I was doing it back then, but in my view and the knowledge that I have, the people that work in our internal affairs, they're all sergeants, the investigators, and the vast majority of them don't have any investigative background, and if they do, it's extremely limited, right? They're promoted to the position of sergeant, and they wind up in IA because they're sent out to the road, and they're friends of somebody who's in IA, and they're deemed a good guy, and they don't want to work midnight shifts. They don't want to pay their dues.
Yeah.
So they pull them into IA, and that's evident when you read the reports that they write and how they put things together. You know as well as I do, you can steer an investigation any way you want to.
Yeah.
It's all in how you word things. It's all in how you throw questions out there and knowing what to ask and what not to ask. In my first investigation, they let Miss Fair come in on 3 separate occasions and give 3 separate sworn statements because she didn't feel that she had covered enough in her first statement or 2. How many Garrities do I get? I mean, what's fair is fair.
Yeah.
And so I think if you want to fix it, you have to start there first, and you have to start going for the cream of the crop. You have to start finding people that are really worthy investigators because, again, liability-wise, I would think that's where you would want your main focus to be on, your internal affairs stuff. That's the stuff that's going to cause you severe damage,
Right.
Monetarily.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, we look at the culture, especially after 2020 and everything, and nationwide, how police departments have changed, where all the old timers said, you know what, I'm done. It's not worth it anymore. They leave, and now you're left with these younger guys. God bless them. I don't have anything wrong with the younger guys, but they lack the wisdom in a lot of cases to be in these positions that they're getting in. I think that's good. That's a common theme that we're hearing now. Is that all of the old guys, the old timers, it's not worth it for them anymore. There's no real incentive. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. So they're checking out. Then
Carl, I can tell you, and your brother can vouch for it. It wasn't that long ago that to get a position in the homicide unit, somebody had to either retire or die.
Yeah.
Okay. Now people show up on scenes, to a homicide scene, even the sergeants, and I'm saying to myself, "Who are you? I've never seen you before in my entire career." Where'd you come from?
4 years on, yeah.
Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
Oh, I did a year and a half in District CI investigating bicycle thefts. Oh, and now you're in homicide. Part of the problem with that is, again, it's the culture. A lot of people don't want to do specialty units anymore because they've got it so good on the road.
Yeah.
They work their 12-hour shifts. They're 3 days one week, 4 days the next. They've got their details set up. They're getting paid $100 an hour to work extra at the airport. We've got deputies that are making, over $200,000 a year. Deputies.
Yeah. And I remember when I first started, just the FTO level, you're talking 10, 15-year guys that were FTOs.
Yeah.
And then they
Minimum.
would take sergeant's tests.
Yeah.
And now it's your FTOs have 2 years on, if that.
You couldn't promote back in the day, and I'm going. I've been around a long time, but even up to maybe a decade ago, you couldn't promote to sergeant if you were just strictly a road patrol guy. You had to have done something else, or at least shown the motivation to do something else, because you want a more well-rounded supervisor. How can you teach and mentor and encourage and train if you don't know it yourself?
It's the blind leading the blind.
And that is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And especially with my agency, it's huge. And when I went to retire, there's a couple people down in HR and a couple really nice women, and their statement to me was, we can't keep up with the amount of people that we're losing. We can't. We're at our wits' end. It's too much for the two of us because people are just bailing. They're done.
Right.
They're over the authoritarian regime. I mean, this guy pounds his fists all over the place and, fires people if they look at him wrong. And the people, his inner circle just goes, they all nod and just go right along with him. He promotes friends of friends. We're back to the good old boy system. At first, when he took over, it was a good thing. Everybody liked him. Everybody thought it was a good thing because he promoted from within, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
But now anybody that bucks him, he has no problem with getting rid of. And they're promoting people, again, with district commanders, captain, district commanders. You're promoting somebody that's been a lieutenant for maybe a year and a half. What do they know about being a captain? That's a whole nother ballgame, dude.
Of course.
You're dealing with city elected officials. You're dealing with, a multi-million-dollar budget. You got to learn that somewhere else. You can't learn it as a captain.
Yeah.
That's why there's so many failures.
So you retire. You say, I'm done with this. It's not even worth.
That's it.
It's not even worth fighting.
I went in. They drew up a general release thing because they knew that I could come back and sue them, and I had to agree not to sue them, and they allowed me to leave in good standing. And part of leaving in good standing meant a lot to me because I was able to cash out with my sick time and stuff like that, which they would have withheld had I fought it.
Yeah.
And that was a substantial amount of money. But monetarily, I got screwed. I wasn't able to go into the drop. They're getting a huge raise this October, like a $40,000 raise, everybody across the board.
Wow.
Yeah, apparently when he got done painting all of his murals in the new training center, he had some money left over. So now he's going to pay everybody what they're due because we were actually one of the lowest paid sheriff's departments around. So he's going to up everybody's pay by like $40,000. So I'm getting screwed out of that.
Yeah.
I left really a job that I still enjoyed. I still loved. I was from what I believe from the text messages I got from my guys, they were distraught that I was leaving them. And that's to me is the highest compliment.
No, of course. Just to know that because look, man, the machine is going to do what the machine does, and you're just a cog in it for the most part. But to be able to have some type of influence, maybe, put something in the minds of the up and comers, that might not have been there had you not been there. It's a rewarding feeling. Before the show started, I asked you to write down some advice you would give to your younger self. I have since heard that you want to change your answer to something else, but first,
no, you can leave it.
I'd like to go to the first answer that you wrote.
You can leave it.
Be careful who you call a friend in this profession, because most are not. They're your coworkers. I think a lot of people learn that the hard way, myself included.
I have a handful of people that I know that I could call at a moment's notice and they'd be there for me.
Yeah.
They showed up at the hospital for me. But the vast majority of people, retiring after the career that I had, I've heard from virtually nobody. People that would routinely call out to me, hey, man, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Not a word, dude. Not a word. You know who I heard from the most? Our old NMB people. People I haven't worked with in 20 years.
Wow. Saw
that I retired on Facebook and reached out to me. Congratulations, man. We're proud of you. Hold your head up. You did an outstanding job. My ex-police chief reached out to me. But I tell my wife the same thing because she goes in and she gets upset because, especially the fire department, it's supposed to be a brotherhood, right? You break bread together, you make meals, you do all kinds of.
You guys are pariahs now. Yeah.
And not just us, it's the culture in general.
Yeah.
culture in general. I told you this, and I'm glad I just remembered it, and I'll just throw this out there just for the audience's sake again. When you look at the totality of everything that's happened with me, and again, I'm not a victim. I made some poor choices. I'll readily admit that. I'm not perfect, but I also have not deserved what has happened to me and my family, and I have not deserved to be humiliated like I was through this HBO episode, through no fault of my own. But I find it ironic that this internal affairs investigation is conducted, takes the entire 180 days. They stretch it out, even though there's only 3 people to talk to. Range Media refused to talk to him. HBO refused to talk to him. They had no other evidence. There's no other anything other than the show itself, a tape of the show.
Yeah.
So that could have been closed out in a month, easy. But it's just interesting that I find out after the fact, as they're walking me out. I'm going to try not to get emotional because it bothers me.
Yeah.
But so I'm on paid administrative leave, and I have to go in and bring my wife with me to sign off on my retirement paperwork, right? Well, to get into the building, I don't have access. So I have to be escorted by 2 armed sergeants from IA to go sign off on my retirement paperwork, right? As we turn the corner to go to HR to sign off on my retirement paperwork, my vest with my badge, my ID, my nameplate are sitting on the ground in a box, waiting to be walked over to property to be checked in. That's how I went out. And the guy that was investigating me, and nothing against him personally, he was waiting to take my job. He's on the current lieutenant's list.
35 years of service reduced to this bullshit.
The stuff that I hung up and dusted off and kept pristine on a daily basis to present a professional and positive image is sitting on the ground for everybody to walk by and see.
It's kind of like your reputation laying right there.
Yep.
Everything you've worked for, sacrificed for,
Yep.
the sleepless nights, the PTSD.
Yep.
Man, I really.
And nobody will help us. Nobody. Like I said, I've talked to several attorneys, and I'm just like, I'm not even looking for monetary compensation. I just want somebody to just right a wrong.
One of my biggest goals is to just snap some sense into some of these administrators. And look, being an administrator, being a sheriff, being a chief, dude, that's hard work, man. I'm not gonna. I sympathize with the type of work because it's a completely different animal when you're up there. I sympathize with people in that position because you're the face. You got to take all the blows.
Yep.
But you gotta treat your guys better. There has to be fairness. There has to be accountability on the top and the bottom.
Yep.
We need to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Yep.
And the same thing needs to happen with the people that run the show. Because far too often we hear these horror stories of just abhorrent behavior against employees that are guilty of nothing but doing their job. Maybe they made a mistake here and there. Maybe they could have done something differently. Maybe in your case, you're trying to support your wife in her thing, and it comes back and it just kind of tanks your entire reputation. And the fallout inside the agency, like that's gotta really, really sting. And, look, I don't, and this show, what I'm going to do, the video essays that I do, one of my biggest rules is I don't talk shit about people. Like, we're all human beings. We're all prone to making mistakes. You're never going to hear me badmouth anybody. But, I wanted to hear, nobody granted you the same courtesy, right? They took what they wanted and they put your story out the way they wanted to tell it. And this was just my opportunity. I wanted you to have the opportunity to, tell them there's more to the story. We all know there's more to the story. Let's hear it. Let's hear it from you.
No, and I sincerely appreciate that. That's why I made the drive, and that's why I reached out to you initially, because again, I know the quality person that you are. I know the quality product that you've put out, and again, I'm not looking for sympathy from anybody. If anything, maybe it's a learning experience for somebody else, so that they don't make the same mistakes that maybe I made. And again, I'm still trying to figure out the mistakes that I supposedly made.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of mind-boggling how one woman in particular can and turns into a couple more. Can cause me 5 years of physical and emotional abuse, and nothing can be done about it.
Yeah. If nothing else, this is a cautionary tale about the types of landmines that are all over this job.
Yep.
And, if you had to give like some parting advice to people because look, I got nothing but love for my brothers in blue. They do a hard job. The media treats them like shit. They don't get a fair shake ever. Yeah. Like hit jobs like this are like, listen, man, I get it. Nobody likes people in positions of authority. It's kind of human nature. But what advice would you give to people that are in the job now that are, navigating, because we're in a rough time. Arguably, it's maybe gotten a little better in the last couple of years. It was really bad a few years ago, but maybe we're on the recovering end. But what would you tell these guys that are out there working right now?
Just be very cautious. Be very cautious of who you surround yourself with, whether it's on duty or off duty. And again, you nobody has a crystal ball. Again, you can do your due diligence like we did all day long and still wind up getting screwed. Yeah. So there is no guarantee, but just be careful. When in doubt, seek the opinions of others that you trust and value. Seek the opinions of family. That you can, and just be very, very cautious. Not only what you do on the street, but what you do in your private life. And I think we've always known that. We've always done that. And I got to tell you, to be perfectly honest with you, that's a hell of a relief. For the first time since I was 19 years old, I'm 54 years old now. I'll be 55 this year. I don't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah, I know. It's great, isn't it?
It just dawned on me the other day. My wife and I are sitting at dinner, and I've only been retired since May. And I don't know what drew my attention or what made me think about it, but all of a sudden I just realized, I go, you know what? If this guy next to me threw a beer on me and I punched him in the face right now, I wouldn't have to call my department. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, not that I would do that, but I'm just like, I was like, I don't have to. There's nobody to overwatch anymore. There's no Overwatch anymore. Yeah, I can do what I want.
A lot of people get the perception that cops are kind of they lack accountability, and in some cases we've seen instances like in the media where there's some of those arguments are warranted. But no, man, it is a constant kind of this weight on your back, carrying that responsibility, and knowing that if you fuck up the same way that any other Joe Schmo fucks up, it's going to be a lot different for you.
Yeah. And what makes it difficult for us is, especially people that have been around for a while, is you're now navigating a whole different world. Yeah. It's like you're Star Trek on a voyage, and you've landed on an alien planet. Because the new kids, the one thing that they have going for them now is that they have been brought up basically from the womb with a camera and an iPhone and everything else. That's all that they know. So it's not uncommon for them to experience being videotaped, and they don't have a problem with it because that's all they've ever known. For us, we're still getting used to that.
Yeah, it's a little different.
And knowing, wait a minute, did I say that in the right way? Could that be misconstrued? Could that be? Yeah. So it's a good feeling. It's bittersweet because I miss it. I miss having the badge and the gun. I do miss it because that's all I've ever known.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, my blood pressure's down. I'm healthy. I'm getting back in shape. I've got my PI license. I'm doing some side stuff. it could have been a hell of a lot worse. I'm grateful for what I have.
Good.
But just if you don't mind, I'll leave you with this. As I was talking again, and you say, what would make a agency just completely poo-poo and dismiss somebody? This is what I put out to my guys when I made my decision, when I heard what the board was going to do. And again, you can edit this however you want to edit it. And this is not me patting myself on the back, but I want the audience just to know that it's not just me saying that I was a decent guy. I said, good evening, gents. As most of you have probably heard, my case was reviewed last week by the board and ended on a mixed note. When it became obvious that I wouldn't be able to rejoin the team, I made the decision to retire rather than push forward without you guys. My heart just wasn't as in it. So today I formally signed my retirement paperwork, which will take effect May 1st. This was not an easy decision, however, it had to be done. Although I had my many additional things I wanted to accomplish for the team, I take comfort in the fact that you will still be led by two of the best sergeants in the agency, and I'm confident that what we've built over the past 6 years will continue to endure. In the meantime, it has been an honor and a privilege to lead and work with each of you along the way. I have two departing requests. Continue to take care of each other as a family does, and make sure you invite me to the next UFC fight that everybody's going to be going to. And I get back, thank you, sir, for all that you've done for the team. Couldn't have made it what it is without you. Cheers to retirement. Thank you for what you've done. I can't say enough about your leadership, and only hope more bosses like you in our career. You always put us first. Not many of times that I can say that about a boss. Enjoy it. Stay active. Enjoy these years post-retirement. Can't thank you enough for always taking care of me, taking care of the team. You allowed us to create clusters and be real cops without any pushback and nothing but full support. Jeff, it has been an absolute pleasure working under your leadership and considering you a friend. Your dedication, putting the team first, has yielded numerous accomplishments for our unit over the past several years. I am saddened by your departure, but I wish you all the best in retirement. And last but not least, Lieutenant, it was an honor and a privilege to work under you. You are truly the last of a dying breed when it comes to police work. Thank you for what you've done for me and the team as a whole. Your leadership and jokes will truly be missed. Enjoy your retirement. Yeah, and that was it. That's from my guys.
Tells me that you were a real cop, and people appreciate real cops. Yeah. And it's a shame that they lost you.
Yeah.
But, you got to tell your story and fill in the gaps.
I'm grateful for that. And I truly, truly thank you for your time and your patience. I know it was a lot to get through. It's it's exhausting just going back through it myself. But it is what it is. Again, we're not monstrous people. We're good people that were systematically attacked and destroyed over the last 5 years. Yeah. So, but you know what? I'm in a good place now. And God willing, who was ever watching out for me, it will continue to get better, and we'll go from there.
Good for you. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you.